Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Marketing Masterclass. We've got 2 days of expert-led talks lined up for you on all things marketing, from social to strategy and everything in between. So really hope you do enjoy the content. Just also a very quick bit to say a huge, massive thank you to all the sponsors and partners who are involved with this talk, because without them, it simply wouldn't be possible to bring you so much fantastic content completely free of charge. There will be a very brief survey that pops up at the end of the session. So if you could fill that out for us, it's massively appreciated. And also one final thing, it will be the same link throughout the whole of today with a new link tomorrow. So you can dip in and out if you need to go after work, for example. So we'll jump straight into the talks. And the first talk we have is from Nora Gonzalez, who is Head of Enterprise Marketing at Sendinblue. And she's going to be talking about marketing automation. So Nora, if I bring you into the conversation now.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can all hear me and see me well. And welcome to the Marketing Masterclass. My name is Nora Gonzalez. I'm the Head of Enterprise and Content Marketing. Today, we're going to be talking about marketing automation and how to increase your performance at low efforts. So a little bit about me. I'm actually half French, half Spanish. I grew up in France. I'm currently based in Paris, but I actually spent 8 years in the UK. I have over 15 years of international experiences in marketing and customer experience. What I'm looking for in everything I do is really how do we offer a personalized omni-channel customer experience. And I really want to help companies create positive outcomes on every interaction, which is what I'm trying to do here at Sendinblue. On my personal time, I love traveling. I'm a crafts enthusiast. I make my own clothes, things like that. And I love reading as well. So what we're going to talk about today is how you are going to make your life easier by dipping your toes in marketing automation. So we'll look at what marketing automation actually is, what's the deal with it, and then we'll go into 2 main use cases. First one is how do you improve your conversion rates with automation? And second, how to use automation to refine segmentation. And do bear with me until the end, because I have a little checklist of best practices for you to get started. So before we dive into automation, perhaps you guys don't know Sendinblue. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about who we are and where we're coming from on automation. That might be helpful. So we're actually an all-in-one digital marketing platform, and I like to say that that we let you do more with less. So we, in our all-in-one digital marketing platform, what you'll find is a number of features, that revolve around digital marketing, and that allow you to communicate, engage, and convert more of your leads and customers. So we have features such as email marketing, transactional email, segmentation, Facebook ads, and of course, automation. One of the interesting things about Sendinblue is that we have different plans for different people. And the one that's really going to help you accelerate your growth is our personalized enterprise plan, where you get unlimited support from a dedicated customer success manager, access to an academy, etc. But also it's a scalable plan. So you're not really limited into anything. And it's a very robust solution as well. And finally, our features and services are a la carte on enterprise. So do encourage you to check that out on our website, or actually talk to me on LinkedIn. And the reason why I'm coming to talk to you today about automation is, of course, that service does exist in Sendinblue, and the way that it's different is that it actually combines all of the channels into an easy tree style presentation. So actually the image that you see on the screen is actually pretty much what it looks like. Of course, this is a designed image, but you get the idea. It's really, really easy with a drag and drop interface to create, your automation scenarios. And we're going to go through that today. I'm going to show you how to create some good scenarios that actually move the needle. And the other thing that's pretty good is that if you run an e-shop, an e-commerce website or similar, you can actually pull a lot of your data directly with zero code using plugins. So apparently that comes in really, really handy, and our customers love it. And finally, for those of you who are just getting started with automation, and again, we'll talk about that a bit later, there are some pre-built scenario templates that are actually included. So essentially, in a click, you can get your automation scenario going. And what really, I've been doing automation for a while, actually, long before I joined Sendinblue. And what's interesting about marketing automation is that often, and too often, I hear from customers, oh, that sounds really complicated. Do I really want to do that? Ooh, but it's going to be complex to set up. I'm going to need to ask IT for some help. And actually, it's not really the case. So what I want to do today is, and hopefully that's what you'll take away, is that actually it's pretty easy and it's pretty powerful. So what's the actual value of automation? Well, really, it's a key conversion lever. So it's really important. You can't have, I don't think you can have excellent conversion if you're not really using any automation. So it's really, really key if you want to convert more of your leads, more of the people that visit your website, etc. It's also an opportunity to improve customer experience because with automation, and we'll look at this, you can target your customers a lot more finely. And when we talk about segmentation, we'll see how much that can improve customer experience. And more importantly, and for the marketing managers out there, it's a real chance to save time and money, of course, because obviously you won't be doing any of those repetitive tasks that you've been doing anymore to launch your campaigns, meaning that it's actually a more efficient use of your teams, of your resources, who can then focus on something else, on creating content, on, there's lots of other things that we can do. So that's really where the value of automation is coming from. And so, the question that I'm asking you today is, why would you do today what you could have automated yesterday? So really, what is marketing automation is it encompasses the automation of a series of marketing actions, marketing activities that are triggered by predefined conditions that you decide on, predefined criteria that you decide on. So how does it work? Well, really, actually, it's the only limit is your imagination. So what are you going to do? You're going to define the objectives that you want to achieve. That's all you need to do. That's really the big work. Is really what do you actually want out of an automation scenario. And then all you'll need to do is program the tasks to be automated in what we call either scenarios or workflows, both work. And then you choose the criteria. And based on that, the scenario will automatically assign your contact, your action, and will execute it for you. And so, we get to a point where you might think, really, is that really for me? Well, actually, yes. It's not specifically, automation is not for tech people. It's not for anybody who's really, who's got a lot of technical knowledge. It really works for anyone. And there are infinite combinations. All job functions can try and have tried automation. So, if you're looking to improve lead conversion rates, customer engagement, or simply personalize the relationship with your customers, it's definitely for you. So now that we understand a little bit better what automation can do for you, let's have a look at how we can improve conversion rates. So what I've done is I'm going to go through 3 actual real scenarios. They're examples. They cover some elements of the customer journey and show you how that can be done. So the first one is how you're going to simplify user onboarding. The first thing, as I was saying earlier, is define your objective. So here in my objective, in my example, what the objective I've defined is, well, because this is a new user, I want them to, they've just signed up, either to my newsletter or they've just signed up to as a customer. So I really want to engage them and get them to interact with my product or my service from the first contact. So like I said, this is an example. So that there's loads of other examples, but I wanted to share one that's really, really common. And the one that's really, really common is a new subscriber to a newsletter. So you've got a new contact, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. You've got a new contact and you've added it to the list of new subscribers to the newsletter. So what most brands do is, they send a welcome email thinking, that's great. That should be enough. And it's great. You can stop there, but depending on your product, there's lots of other options that you can do to continue to make the most of that first interaction, where the user is actually usually quite engaged because they've gone through the efforts of signing up. So you can send the welcome email where you confirm the newsletter subscription, but with automation you can actually automatically do plenty of other things. So here in the example, I've gone for let's get the automation feature to look at whether the welcome email was opened and clicked after 48 hours. And if it wasn't, then well, actually, let's start with if it has. If it has, then an idea, and that's just an idea, could be to send the previous newsletter so that the customer doesn't have to wait, for another week or 2 weeks to get the actual newsletter, and they can get a flavor of what it's like. But you can send something else. You can perhaps, send a tutorial on product use, depending on your product. You can send other relevant content, perhaps a blog post, or there's just plenty of other things that you can do. But let's keep our example of the previous newsletter. So again, we'll get the automation feature to see whether the email was opened and click after, say, 2 days. And if it hasn't, then we might want to send a welcome offer, for example, to re-engage the customer. So the objective here is always the same, is get the customer to click to engage with us. And automation can actually do that for you. So those manual steps that you see on those steps that you see on the screen, and that before perhaps you were doing manually, with automation, you can actually, with just a click of a button, you can get those to happen automatically. It's quite a lot of time saved, right? So that's the first example I wanted to show you. The second one is by far the most popular, especially if you have an e-shop, an e-commerce website. It's chasing an abandoned cart, an abandoned basket. So what's my objective here? As I was saying, we always start with the objective. We want to encourage the customer to place the order quickly. So in my example, I've got customer adds product to cart. Obviously, the assumption here is that we know the customer. So perhaps, they've clicked on one of your emails already, and you know their email address. So you're able to actually, chase them. So the idea here is that your automation scenario would say, well, we'll wait 24 hours. The order is confirmed, then great, no further action. If it isn't, then I want to send a chaser email. And that will be done automatically. Then I'll wait another 2 days and see if the order is confirmed. Then if it is, then again, great, no further action. And then if it isn't, I might want to send a second chaser email. So you can automate all of that. What depends on you really is the content. So, you want to encourage them to consider actually repurchasing. So you might want to remind them of the contents of their carts. You might want to reassure them with some FAQ. Something that's actually quite effective is to perhaps inform them that a product is about to run out. That's like a side thing to perhaps an additional discount or something like that. But if you tell them that a product is running out of stock, there's definitely a good chance, that if they get an email saying, oh, only 3 left, you've got a good chance that they might purchase. So that's actually one of my favorites. And that's the most common one. So again, you can actually connect this to your e-shop provider, your e-commerce provider. So say you have a Shopify or a PrestaShop, then you can connect that, and it will automatically pull the data through up the plugin and get the scenario going. So it's really, really easy to set up. And then the final one is a less popular one, but it's for me, it's really, really important. It's re-engaging in active contacts. So what's my objective here? My objective is to maintain a clean email list for better deliverability. Why is that important? Because the less my customers open my emails, so if they become inactive, the more my deliverability rate, so which means my reputation as a sender with email clients, the more it's affected. So, and if my deliverability isn't great, then I run a really high risk of my emails to actual active contacts actually landing in the spam folder, which is really not what we want. So a lot of brands just actually remove inactive contacts. So people who haven't done anything for more than, say, a couple of months. But I say, why not try to re-engage them before deciding that you've completely lost them? So in this example, Say that a customer hasn't opened an email in the last 2 months, and perhaps you want to combine that with they haven't visited a website in 3 months. It's just an example. Your product might be different. It might be a longer period, but you might want to try to first send a reactivation email. So perhaps a discount on a product that was purchased before, some relevant content, a blog post, etc., or even an invitation to a webinar if you're in the B2B space. And then, for example, you can wait about 2, 3 days, 4 days, and see if there's any action taken. And if there is some action, then perfect, you can add the customer to one of your lists. Otherwise, I would strongly recommend that you remove them from the base. And adding them and removing them can also be done automatically in the in automation, essentially. So these are 3 basic scenarios. What I want to show you is that really some simple tasks are just really easy to automate, and then you can learn from there and add conditions, add filters, etc., and start playing around with it. Like I said before, the only limit is your imagination. So moving on to the segmentation part. So how to use automation to now refine segmentation. So that's our second use case. So we've looked at how we can play with conversion, how we can impact conversion with lower effort, but we can also do the same with contact segmentation. And perhaps before we do that, let's remind ourselves what segmentation is. Well, really, I like to summarize segmentation with a simple sentence. It's divide and conquer. So it's really the art of using different contact attributes to add them to a list and then assign campaigns to match your defined criteria. Simple as that. So really, there's no limit to what you can segment. You can have hundreds of segmented lists, as long as you're able to define, the criteria that you want for your contact to belong. So, for example, you can base it on behavior for example, whether the customer's viewed a page or opened an email, etc. You can you can use the campaign reactivity because that shows engagement. So for example, if you have a list of customers who always open within the first hour that you've sent your campaigns, that indicates high engagement. That's something that you can use. You can also use demographics. It's the most common one, and it's almost an obvious, whether their gender, their preferences, their location, their language, all of that is really important in terms of segmentation into how you are then going to send your campaigns. So what are you going to actually do with segmentation? Well, actually, what it allows you to do is really identify the degree of interest of each of your contacts to spot potential high value customers or just potential customers full stop. And once you've spotted those, you're there and divided your contacts into different lists. Well, really, because you can use those to send campaigns, you can really, really highly personalize the level of knowledge of your customer, and therefore, tailor your content so that it's a lot more relevant to your audience, which again is really important. Otherwise, they won't open and they won't click. And then also, the third thing you can do is refine your multi-channel strategy, because you will learn a lot from segmenting, but you already know a lot about your customers, and you know what channels they prefer, depending on the type of customers, whether they're going to be more interested in Instagram and Snapchat, or whether with a certain audience you get better results with banners, for example. So segmentation really allows you to have a much finer, so go down a level in how you know your customer, and therefore how you communicate with them. So how does automation play into that? Well, it comes in to add this behavioral layer to segmentation. Because as we said before, I showed you how you can use automation for more intelligent campaign sequencing, but you can also, use and slice that behavioral data that you're collecting from your customer journey to refine that segmentation automatically and trigger certain actions automatically. So I've taken here 3 examples. Looks like I like number 3 quite a lot. First one is adding attributes. So in addition to your classic contact information about your customers, you can really easily use automation to pull additional data. I was talking about plugins earlier. That's where they come in handy. So, you know, transactions, activities on your website, etc. All of that comes in really handy in your contact segmentation, and you can add all of those attributes automatically to then use them later in campaigns. Second thing is scoring leads. So this is more of a B2B activity, and also I see that a lot in financial services and insurance. So if your strategy does include a lead scoring, a scale to identify clients' potential, then you can actually automate that scoring. So depending on what actions the customer takes, you can define a scenario, a workflow that is going to automatically add your customers into the new score. And you can also, based on the score, automatically trigger the right campaigns. So that comes in really handy as well if you do use lead scoring. And then the final thing that's really good in terms of customer experience is the ability to connect to the CRM. So you can also automate the creation of certain tasks to directly connect to your CRM. So for example, if you want to trigger a callback from your customer care center or your sales contact center, you can create that automatically based on an action. You can create that automatically, and then your automation scenario will connect both of these and make that happen for you. So that can be really powerful as well if you've got sales involved in your process. So that's 3 examples, but to bring them to light a little bit more, I wanted to show you some examples of dynamic segmentations that use automation. So they're actually, the examples I'm going to show you are quite similar to what we've talked about, but like I said before, you're refining here. So you're going, you know, down a level in terms of segmentation, and you're going down a level in terms of campaign personalization. So for example, if we look at customers that I call ready to buy, so say they've added a product that they bought last month to their basket again, well, then you can automatically identify them as a recurring buyer. And so you can suggest, for example, another campaign that you can do is one where you suggest relevant additional products, or, you know, personalized basket reminder specifically for those customers. So forget all of those blanket emails of the past. Here you can really completely personalized. Same goes for campaign engagement. If you're able to identify that a contact clicked on a product, say some trousers, X days, 30 days or 15 days before Black Friday, you can add the contact to a list of qualified leads for Black Friday promotion on trousers, for example. And same goes for a completed transaction. So this one is really interesting because you can actually match profiles. So if a customer who has made their first order, if you identify that they match the profile of a customer who purchased another product within the last 7 days, then you can automatically use an email to send an offer on said product. So that can come in really handy. There's millions of other examples. We could be here all day, but I'm hoping this has shed some light about the beauty of automation and what you can do with it. So I wanted to leave you with some practical advice to get started. And I know I've said this a lot through the last 20 minutes, but really, if the first thing that you need to do is define the objectives that you're looking to achieve. It's just really going to make it easier to build your scenario. So think, what is my ultimate goal? What do I actually want the scenario to do? What do I want my lead or my customer to do at the end? The other good piece of advice I can give you is start small. So really start with simple scenarios to test. We've got in Sendinblue, we've got 6 pre-built scenarios, including the abandoned cart, the welcome email that I spoke about earlier. So, you know, start small, you know, a couple of actions, very simple, and then optimize as you go. As you get more confidence, you can start optimizing by adding extra conditions. The other one is about the customer journey. So you need to understand what your customer, before you can do any automation, you need to understand what your customer does, how does their journey happens. So do analyze the different touch points in the journey to understand which events trigger those profitable behaviors, those ideal behaviors that you want your customers to take, because those can then be used, back to my point 1, to define the objectives of a scenario, and you're just going to be just that much more efficient if you know your customer journey or your buyer journey really well. And talking about profile, remember to determine what is my ideal profile for the perfect customer. Who's my perfect customer? Who's the one who pays well? Who's the one who buys often? And use that in your segmentation to refine your targeting, refine your messaging. Look at what steps they've taken to actually be that perfect customer, and replicate those in your automation scenario. I can't not mention to always remain GDPR compliant. So at Sendinblue, we make it really easy. We've got, some pre-built stuff in there, but you do have to always speak to your legal team to make sure that you are remaining GDPR compliant on all of those automated transactional emails. And my final piece of advice is my usual one. So test, analyze, iterate, and repeat. Very, very important. Is the right way to be successful. Be agile in how you automate. So start small, test, analyze, iterate, and repeat. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Appreciate this was a lot of information. I hope you found it useful. You're very welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also directly email me, nora.gonzalez@sendinblue.com, and do feel free to check out our websites. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nora. Yeah, I really appreciated that. That was there was a fantastic quote in there. Why do today what you could have automated yesterday? And I think that hit me particularly well. I thought that was fantastic. Appreciate that's a really sort of quick dive into the topic. I'm sure you could have spoken for a lot longer. It's worth mentioning as well that there is in the virtual event bag, you've added is it a workbook or a sort of PDF guide?
Yeah, it's an ebook. We wrote an ebook on marketing automation. We have a few ebooks. We have one on deliverability. I know I touched on that slightly earlier. Email deliverability, really, really, really important. So yeah, you can check out our deliverability ebook, our automation ebook. And next week, we've got the email marketing industry benchmark. That's coming out as well. So watch out for that. It will be announced on our LinkedIn social media page. And there'll be a webinar about it as well. It's always free of charge. So you're always all very welcome to join.
Excellent. That sounds really good. We'll try and we'll send out a link to that webinar if you send that on to me. We'll try to get some people signed up. So it sounds fascinating.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to touch on that as well. I mean, do you offer sort of extended support or more training sessions about automation?
We do. It really depends on our customers' needs, because on our enterprise plans, you are assisted by, you get a dedicated customer success manager who's there to help you every step of the way. So they help you with your initial onboarding, the analysis of your deliverability so that we can help you improve that, and the training, etc. So they do help with setting up your initial automation scenarios. And we have noticed that some customers do try to go a little bit further. So they do need a little bit of extra help. So for those, we do custom made workshops occasionally to like a full day workshop or a 2-day workshop, depending on what the customer needs. And we bring in a couple of experts within the company and we help our customers, go to the next level when they're ready, essentially.
Amazing. And yeah, one thing I was struck by, because I've got a Sendinblue account, is with a lot of systems, it becomes very, very expensive if you want to scale quickly. I was honestly shocked by how affordable it was to scale up pretty quickly in Sendinblue. I was delighted, to be quite honest with you.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, with enterprise, it's a custom plan. So we do have some what we call some standard self-service plans. So there's 4 of those. So for people to get started, but for marketing professionals, we do recommend the enterprise plan, which is entirely custom, and that includes some renewals there where you can increase your plan depending on your needs as well. So we do scale with customers in the same way that customers scale with us as well, because we've only been around for 8 years, so we have scaled with customers.
Amazing. I'm conscious of time, so I'll say a massive thank you, Nora, because that was a fantastic talk. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a fantastic time at the event, everybody. I will jump back into the attendees list now.
Thanks, Nora.
Cheers.
Just before we move on to the next talk, a couple of people are asking about the virtual goodie bag, the virtual event bag. So that I'm hoping the invitation has been sent out by email this morning. I'll send a link in the chat box during the break as well, so you can have a look there, because there's some free content, there's competitions, prizes, all sorts going on in there. So on to the next talk, and I'm delighted to bring in Abbie Roberts to the conversation, who's PPC specialist, and as we're talking about Google Ads and really getting a good return on your investment.
All right. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay. So hello everyone. I'll say good morning. We're going to have a little chat about Google Ads today. So as you know, these segments aren't really very long. We don't have a lot of time to dive into everything. So, I've had to really condense it down basically into a couple of sections, basically for new advertisers and then existing advertisers. Okay. So first, a little bit on myself. So my name is Abbie Roberts. I'm a PPC specialist with 8 years of experience. And yeah, I've worked in lots of different places in, oh, sorry, my screen's frozen. Right, here we go. Right, what was I saying? So me, I have 8 years of experience, obviously not with Zoom. So yes, I've worked in-house, in agency and direct with clients, and I've been working for myself for the past 5 years as an independent consultant, essentially. So I think it's going, there we're going to go. Hooray. So yeah, Google Ads, what is it? Many of you will probably know. I can see that lots of you are in marketing. So yeah, I'm sure most of you will already be acquainted with Google Ads and kind of what it's all about. So Google Ads has been going since the year 2000. It's essentially a way to reach almost everybody on the internet. So, you can reach people with search ads, with display ads, with video ads, and also retarget people as well. So you've got so many options as far as the way that you can reach your target audience on and across all of Google's networks. All right, so a few ways. And I'm going to have to go for this even quicker now, but hopefully, as I can see lots of you are already in marketing, you'll kind of have a little bit of an idea of some of the things that you can do. So here we have search ads here at the top. This is what these look like on the Google search page. You have your organic results underneath, and then your shopping ads over here to the right, which you have the image, you have your product title, you have your price under there. Google display. We will all have seen these everywhere. Wherever you go online, you can see the banners on different websites. You can literally reach millions and millions of websites with Google display. So, and you can be very creative with all the ads that you use as well. So video, you have YouTube. We live on YouTube, don't we? So the amount of time that people spend on YouTube on a daily basis is kind of unreal. It's generally between 20 and 45 minutes a day, depending on exactly who you are, which is huge. And there are lots of options as far as running video ads on YouTube as well. You have the masthead, which is basically that really huge banner on YouTube, which is amazingly expensive to buy, but it's a really good option if you just want to reach a massive audience very quickly. You have in-stream ads, which everybody has seen, and you have the option to skip those, and then you have video banners, so little banners that actually appear over the videos themselves. So a few statistics. As a data-driven marketer myself, I couldn't not put some statistics in here. 46% of the total clicks go to the top 3 paid advertising positions on Google Ads. So that's almost half of all of the click activity going through to the paid positions on Google. On average, small businesses spend between $9,000 and $10,000, so American, but still gives you an idea of what people spend on average on Google Ads, and that's a small business actually. So Google gets over 167 billion searches per month. And I know this is actually an old figure, so it's much higher than this now. But Google are the largest search engine in the world, and YouTube is second only to Google search as well. So You know, it is the best, absolute best way to reach your audience, bar none. You know, as far as the, you know, the targeting options you've got, the amount of people that you can reach, it's still the best. 4 times as many people are likely to click on a search ad on Google, which is 63%, than any other search engine. So again, still the best option. So how can you grow with Google Ads? As I say, I've tried to split this into 2. So we have a little section for those who are new, and then a little bit that's more catered to those of you who are running existing ads. So my top tips for new advertisers, again, there's so much I could have gone into here. We are obviously limited on our time, and I wanted to leave time for questions at the end as well, because people quite often have very specific questions to ask. So yeah. For lead generation and services, which I think most of you probably fall under, search is where you're going to want to focus. Not exclusively, but it's where most of your leads are going to come from, supported by some remarketing and display as well. Product sales, of course, and e-com, you're going to want to focus on Google Shopping. So Google Shopping are those ads with the pictures and the prices that we saw before, and your product feed quality is where you're going to want to focus. Strategy is key, of course, and without this, your technical campaign just won't be effective. So, you know, you need to have your strategy really clear from the get-go. So spending the extra time on your strategy will really pay off before you get started. Google are a little bit naughty as far as, you know, trying to sell Google Ads as a very user-friendly platform, which it is, but of course, there are a huge amount of nuances to creating a really effective campaign, and developing the perfect strategy for your business and your budget and your goals right now is really a key part of making it work. And of course, setting everything up correctly. Targeting as well. So, you know, a huge part of any campaign, whether it's search, display, shopping, you need to know the best way to target your ideal customers. So creating profiles of your ideal customers is an excellent way of doing that. And I recommend doing that before you, you know, start working on your strategy as well. Have a goal or ROI to set so you can scale your spend effectively when you are ready. You know, so have those clear goals in mind before you create your campaign and get it set up, because, you know, you want to know exactly when you can start to scale that budget. The same with a conversion rate. You know, have a goal conversion rate that you're aiming for, a realistic one, of course, because I know many of you will say, oh, well, you know, I just want the highest one possible. But yeah, set a goal so that you know when you can start to scale. Tracking. So this is a really big thing. I can't tell you how often, you know, I get into a Google Ads account and start looking at, you know, the campaigns, and tracking just hasn't been set up correctly, or, you know, hasn't been set up at all in some cases. If you're not tracking, it's impossible to improve. It's that simple. So you need to be tracking things accurately and reporting effectively so that you know what's working, what isn't, and you can optimize on all parts of your campaign. Your website and your landing page is half of your success. So, you know, the funnel, the page, the website you're sending people to, you need to make sure that's ready, because you're paying to send people to it. You don't want to send them to a page that's not going to deliver what they expect, whether it's the, you know, the experience, the product. You need to make sure you're taking that into account before you start spending on your ads, ideally. Okay, so it's a really easy way to lose money, even if you have a super effective campaign. You can, you know, lose a lot of money and reduce your performance based on the actual quality of the landing page or the funnel that you're sending people to. Okay, so quickly went through my sort of top few tips for new advertisers, but what about those of you that are already running campaigns? You've got some existing stuff set up and you've got the traffic coming in already. Let's have a look at those. So one of the most common mistakes that costs people so much money, and I see it so often in accounts, is just being too broad with your targeting. So broad keywords, they are really good in terms of reaching lots of people and doing it quite cheaply and getting you cheaper leads, cheaper conversions, but they do need a more experienced hand in order to manage them properly. So be careful, don't just use broad keywords. Second most common issue, as I mentioned a minute ago, is a lack of proper tracking. So spending the time to really get your tracking right, make sure it's accurate, make sure your reporting is set up in the way that you really need it, so that you've got all of your key goals set up and you can track them accurately. A lack of negative list building causes a really big problem as well. So again, if you don't have all of your negative keywords, your lists built out before you start, and if you're not doing search term optimization, which means going through the terms that you're actually paying for and adding and removing things that are relevant to your business and your product, then you're going to be wasting money. So that's another really big part of it as well. Very common issue. Having very tightly themed ad groups will increase your quality score and decrease your cost. So again, this comes back to being very sort of specific and focusing in. So having your keywords be specific to your ads, specific to your landing pages. What is quality score? So quality score, for those of you who maybe don't know, is a rating that Google gives your ads and your keywords, which essentially is how relevant it is to the search the user has done, and then the quality of your landing page as well. A low quality score means that you are going to pay more, essentially, in a very simplistic sense. So it's a really important, metric to be keeping an eye on and making sure that everything is really relevant and high quality. Make sure you're reporting on performance in detail at least once a month with a proper report. Again, that we come back to tracking. It has to be done right, okay? So you have to make sure that everything is set up accurately. So, so important. Weekly management and optimization is essential, even for the smallest of accounts. So, even if you are only just starting out, you need to be checking and optimizing your all of your campaigns at least on a weekly basis. Old school attitudes can cost you thousands. They can cost you a lot of money. Now, this is a little bit of a controversial point, and happy to take questions and obviously answering questions at the end from everybody. There's a lot of managers out there, a lot of marketers out there that like to just keep absolute full control in every way that they can, and to use manual bidding. There's nothing wrong with manual bidding. Manual bidding is great and very effective in some instances, but smart bidding is your friend. Smart bidding and smarter bidding options are going to save you a lot of money, because no matter how fantastic a manager you are, Google's brain, Google's AI knows a lot more than we do. It has access to literally millions and millions of user signals every single hour, every single day. So yeah, don't be afraid to use smart bidding. If you have enough data for it, test it. So ideally you want at least 30 conversions over a 30-day period to be using it effectively and to get good results from that. But yes, don't be afraid when you've got the data. Try different bidding types. Don't just stick with manual because you think it's better by default. Trust me, it's not. Work on your funnel, as I mentioned earlier, but this is an area that just gets ignored a lot of the time. All of the focus goes onto the campaigns themselves, which of course are essential, but it's really half and half. So, half of the work is the actual the campaigns themselves, your strategy, how you're managing everything on the ad side. But then the other side of your success is what's actually happening on page after the user has clicked on your ad, and what the journey that you are taking them through once they're landing on your website. So making sure that you're working on that side of things as well. Top few things that I can mention are like speed, mobile friendliness, making sure your calls to action are very clear, making sure you're not offering too many options because people get very easily confused, keeping it clear, keeping it concise. That's going to improve your conversion rate. Okay, so the conversion optimization, and with the technical hiccups at the start of this, I didn't really say much about my experience, but I have worked hands-on with thousands of accounts at this point. So, and I don't just do, although I'm a specialist in pay-per-click advertising and Google ads and search engines and all the things that encompasses, the other half of what I do is CRO, conversion optimization, and consulting and landing pages and e-commerce CRO, because of course that's the other half to making all of this work and getting the very best ROI for your investment. So yes, work on your funnel. Use things like A/B testing, Hotjar, there are so many amazing tools out there that you can and should be using, because it's about much more than simply just getting a person to your page. And shopping ads. I have to mention shopping ads because for all you ecom people out there, so your data feed is what really matters. Again, I cannot tell you how common it is when I go into an account and the data feed has just kind of been hooked up, say with Shopify or WooCommerce, and not optimized in any way. That is what controls the keywords that your products are going to trigger. Your categories are really important. Yes, your data feed is king. Make sure that you're working on your data feed, optimizing it regularly, and making sure that all of your data is properly formatted so you're going to get the best results. Don't just assume that the tool that you're using is going to do it all for you. It won't. And for example, your product titles are especially important. They are really the most important aspect of all of your data, and the keywords that you have in your product titles are going to control what searches your products show for. And the keywords that you add at the beginning of the title are most important. So think about how you are structuring those titles in order to trigger your ads to show for the right types of searches. Okay, so I will go through the. I'm on good time, so I was worried really that I was going to dive into some of these points and run out of time, but we seem okay, which is great. So I'll go through the top point summary for this page quickly. So watch out for broad keywords. Work on making your quality score brilliant. Make sure you're keeping an eye on that, because your costs will go up if your quality score is low. If you have good tracking in place, make sure that you are using conversion tracking properly, that you have it set up correctly, and then use your data once you have it to test smarter bidding options, because, as I say, they are a great way to reduce your cost per lead, your cost per acquisition, and to just generally improve the performance of your campaigns and your ROI. On-page optimization, of course, is key to maximizing your ROI, but it often gets left, and you need to be working on that as well. Review your performance regularly, as well as your budgets. Check your budget. Make sure that you need to adjust it. For example, this time of year, budgets almost always have to go up because the competition is higher. So make sure you are not only reviewing your performance on a monthly basis, but reviewing your budget as well regularly, at least every 3 to 6 months. Search term management, essential for success, absolutely essential. And again, that's something that should be done at least weekly in your account. Okay. So top items for new advertisers as a summary. So spend time on your strategy before you begin. Don't just throw money at a campaign. I know it's tempting, and I see it all the time. Again, Google are pretty naughty with the way they market their own product, saying that it's super easy to do and anyone can do it. Yes and no, not really, to be honest. So be careful. Think out your strategy. Spend time on it before you go and then structure your campaign. Spend time on profiling your ideal customers for the best targeting. So, what are they searching for? Where are they spending time? What media are they consuming? What YouTube videos do they watch? All these things, building up an idea of what their online lives look like so that you can target them effectively and reach them, with your message effectively. Make sure conversion tracking is set up before you start. A must, okay? Set your budget based on your goals. So this is a really big one. Obviously, if you only have so much to start out with, that's okay, but make sure you are realistic with the amount that you're investing. And also, if you have only a certain budget to start with, then work backwards from that budget. So use that budget to create some forecasts. You can use tools like Google's keyword planner that will help you to create forecasts based on what you're spending and the results that you might get, and you can work backwards from what you have to spend and then build your strategy that way. Okay, because you will have what you actually have to spend will affect the most effective way that your campaign should be set up budget wise, and how your strategy should adapt as you sort of increase your budget. So yeah, ideally though, you want to set your budget based on what you actually want to achieve and the level of competition that you've got going on in your target locations. And make sure your website or landing page is ready before you send users to it, because as I say, you are paying to send those people there. You want to make sure that the place you're sending them to is optimized so that you're going to get the best conversion rate possible. Existing advertisers, make sure targeting is as specific as possible with really tightly themed ad groups. So your keywords match your ads, match your landing pages, get the good quality score, get the best cost, cost per lead, get the best ROI. Make sure you're optimizing your account at least weekly. Beware of broad keywords. They are great, but without an experienced hand, they will waste money. Test smarter bidding when you have enough data to do so. And of course, A/B test and work on your landing pages and your funnels. Such an essential part of it. I think, most of you will know that, obviously, but that really should be, as I say, probably half and half of all of the work that you're doing, because you can have the most amazing campaign in the world, but if your landing page is letting you down, if your offer is letting you down, if your mobile speed is rubbish, it's just not going to work. Okay, you're just going to lose people and you're not going to get the conversion rate that you want, and that is then going to affect your ROI, of course. Okay, so yes, I know I was kind of spying on the chat during the last talk, and I could see that most of you are in marketing or probably going to be lead based, so I know a lot of you will probably know at least the basics of Google Ads already, but great growth and ROI are within your reach with the right strategy, application, and a bit of patience, which I always like to put in there. Of course, the more you're spending, the quicker results you will get. But great things take a little bit of time. That's okay. That's completely normal. And the way that you work on growth and ROI over time, nothing is absolutely linear. It's normal for it to take a few months for you to reach those goals. And a good manager, someone that's experienced, will be, setting those goals with you very early on and talking to you about what you can realistically expect, and not making, big promises from day one. That's something I always, ask people to watch out for. So, if people are making very big promises to you from day one and using words like guarantee and these kind of things, be very careful, because it's all about adapting. It's all about, being on top of what's going on in your space, in your niche, in your industry, and being adaptive and proactive. And we've seen that this year more than ever, of course, with everything that's been going on in the world. It's been all about being adjustable and adapting to what consumers need, and making sure that your marketing is up to speed with that, of course. So yes, Google Ads is still the most effective way to market your business online. Of course, Facebook and social is a massive part of it as well, but Google Ads is still the way to reach the largest amount of people and to most effectively reach your target audience. Okay, so that's a wrap, and we've actually done well time-wise, which I'm happy with. I'm so sorry about the technical hiccup at the beginning. Hopefully I managed to get through it with class, I hope. But yeah, I think let's move on to questions if we've got some now.
Yeah, absolutely. You did really well there, Abbie. There's nothing worse than when you're live and technology fails. It just throws you completely. So well handled, I must say. There are quite a few questions in the Q&A box, so let's jump straight in if we can. Jack's just asked something you touched on there. What do you mean by optimizing your account weekly?
Okay, so I can't go through all the specifics now because, of course, there's a lot that you would have to learn. There are a lot of aspects to it, but some of the main things that you should be doing weekly for search campaigns anyway, which it's kind of, let's say, what would be the focus for most lead gen and service-based businesses. You need to be checking your keyword performance. So you need to be making sure that your keywords are performing well. The ones that aren't delivering conversions for you, consider switching those off if you've tested them for long enough. Do your search term management. So going into the search term report, removing irrelevant keywords, adding them to your negative lists, adding in those that are relevant that you want to target, making sure that you are rotating your ads. So again, once you have enough data, testing different ad copy, making sure you're working on that. Yes, so those are a few things, but of course, there's an awful lot more to it than that. Okay, so
yes, it's a very short period of time we've got here, and I appreciate you've packed a lot of information in. Thank you. Very good question here from Owen. He said, have you found during the learning phase of optimizing for conversions, it spends through the roof, so it spends a lot of money. How do you mitigate this, particularly with a focus for SMEs?
So the way to mitigate that is to make sure you have enough data in the first place. So that often happens when you don't have enough conversion data, when you start using your those smarter bidding types. So yes, you will have basically a more difficult learning phase if you don't have enough conversion data. So that's why I mentioned try and make sure you have at least 30 conversions over a 30-day period before you start to use smarter bidding options, because that is how you will have a much smoother ride through that sort of learning phase. That being said, it is normal to see some adjustments. But yeah, what happens a lot of the time if you just don't have enough data is when you switch to the, say, CPA based bidding, things will just completely drop off and get very slow for a while. So yeah, make sure you've got enough data there for the system to use before you switch to that.
Perfect, thank you. There's a question in there which I think could be an entire webinar on its own. But what are the PPC marketing trends for 2021? What should we be focusing on more?
Ooh, I like that one. Okay, so it's all going in the same direction, which is AI and smart bidding. I think probably the biggest thing that's going to happen, or at least start happening next year, is probably the move from manual shopping to smart shopping, because Google are really pushing that now. They want everybody to move away from sort of very manual, sort of old style management. So I think it's going to be a lot of focus on AI, machine learning. Of course, we already have a lot of that, but I think the biggest thing is going to be more of a mental shift for marketers, business owners, and managers, to really start to accept that and the fact that it works, because it does. And I am always encouraging and my clients to do tests and working with them on that. And I've seen some amazing results from some of the smart campaign types that we've tested. So yeah, don't be afraid. Test it.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, it can be slightly overwhelming for someone like myself, for example, a business owner who's got no experience with this. So
Sure.
This webinar is a perfect example of why we should connect with people like you who know exactly what they're doing so that we don't waste money.
Oh, it's so easy. Yeah, it's very easy to waste money. And as I said a couple of times, Google are quite naughty in the way that they market things, that it's so easy to do. But yes, you do need experience, especially if you're investing any significant amount of money. Of course, there are a lot of easy ways, pitfalls, unfortunately.
Yeah, just one quick final question then. I think that's just come in. It sounds really interesting. So someone's just about to launch a new website. How would you recommend setting up Google for that? Because obviously they don't have any existing data.
Okay, so it will honestly depend on, what you're selling, what your product or service is, who you want to target. So I can't really give you a specific answer, but I can give you some recommendations in order to build your strategy, as I mentioned in the first section. So, with a new website launch, I don't know whether your brand is new or whether you've got an existing brand, for example, and you're just kind of doing a website refresh. But what I would say is really think about how to reach your ideal audience, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation. Think about profiling who your customers are. So you'll have different types of customers, even though you'll know who your key customer is. Think about who's most valuable to you and how you can reach them. So for example, are most of your ideal customers searching on Google search for your products or services? In that case, you will most likely want to go with Google search and try a search campaign first and foremost. But yeah, it's quite difficult, unfortunately, to give obviously answers like that because it's very generalized. And the most effective setup will depend on specifically what you want to achieve. So, but yeah, what I will do is I will jump into the chat when this is finished and answer the rest of the questions and try and give you some specific help. But yeah, you can reach out to me, of course, if you want some more specific advice. I'm happy to help you out.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, and that someone has asked, do you offer your services to companies? If so, could you share your website address or email address or anything like that?
I do indeed, yes. So I will drop that into the chat as well. I didn't add a slide for that at the end because really I just wanted to focus on getting as much good info, in a short space of time. But yes, I'll drop that into the chat for you so you can all reach me.
We'll send your details out in the follow-up as well, don't worry. Perfect. And yes, excellent. So I'm conscious of time, so thank you so much, Abbie. That was a really fantastic run through, loads of content in there. It was really useful.
No problem at all. Great to be here. Lovely to connect with all of you.
So we're going to bring into the conversation now John Attridge, who's the founder and CEO of BBX UK. And it's something a little bit different, this talk, but I think it will be really interesting for everyone that's on the call. So John, I'm going to bring you into the conversation. Can you hear me?
Certainly can. Okay, so hello everybody. That's been very interesting so far. It's amazing what things people learn and what they do. I'm always amazed. My son's into AI and big data, and when I have a conversation, I'm just bemused. I started, as you can probably tell from the way I look, I'm not the youngest person floating around, and the internet has just taken over and amazed me, as I'm sure it's done a lot of people. Some very interesting stuff there on analytics and whatnot, Abbie, and from the previous speaker, some interesting stuff there. I think there's probably three types of people in the world. One old man once said to me, he said, people that make things happen, people that watch things happen, and people that say, what happened? And I think with marketing, a lot of us are in that third phase. We're not quite sure what to do and how to get a proper campaign. So I'm going to start with one little tip. This is one of my customers, and I should just introduce myself, John Attridge, and I'm the founder and CEO of BBX here in the UK. We're a business community, so directly branded and indirectly branded. I started my community 31 years ago. We're now in 32 countries and have about 480,000 businesses of all shapes and sizes, mostly SME, small to medium-sized businesses who work together to get a better result. So I get to see some brilliant stuff happening. There's not a single day that's ever the same. And one little piece, and I'll whack it in the chat when I get a chance in a minute, with AdWords and what have you, is a company called thisisbeacon.com. So beacon is in whatever bobs around in the sea, like a little beacon. Thisisbeacon.com. So what does that do? Well, when you're doing your AdWord campaign, it goes and analyzes on a great little dashboard all the information that you're putting in, the results from what you get back from the impressions that come back from your ad campaign. And it tells you what is real impression that you pay for and what is bot traffic that you've paid for. Now, it's a really interesting statistic. From what I've seen on it, about 50% of what you're being charged for comes from bot. Now, that's going to shock and horrify some people. Certainly won't the marketing geniuses that are on this call. However, it's a great little tool to analyze that. Then you can rejig your A/B testing, as Abbie was talking about, and make sure you get your right words. So you're only paying, as much as possible, you're only paying for real live impressions rather than bot traffic. So if you take away one thing from my talk today, have a little look at that. It's a new startup and it's on the move, and it won't be too long before I think that one of the big boys is going to have a look at it and take it out before it causes too much damage to them. But if you're a marketing company and you're in turn looking after ad campaigns for clients, I suggest you have a little look at it. So let's see if we can get this. So how to leverage your unsold time or your spare capacity to create a marketing budget. So if you're a business owner out there, which is where I focus, everybody needs to market. They just don't need to, they just can't find the budget. When I talk to a lot of people, they just say, John, it's fantastic, but I'm struggling. I've got COVID happening at the moment. My business is on lockdown. Things are happening and I just don't have the budget. And I said, well, okay, let's look at that. So what I've been doing for 31 years is analysing businesses of all shapes and sizes and to see what is the elephant in the room. That's what I call it, the biggest hidden asset that you have in your business that is going to waste. And you can do a lot of things with this hidden asset, but creating a marketing budget is one of them. And it's all about the spare capacity or the spare unsold time that you have in your business. And if I just look at a couple of examples of that in a moment. So when we look at the global chart of businesses, and this is here in the UK, and it follows those trends. There's 5.6 million businesses floating around. They're of the one-man band and SME. They're the real little companies, 95% of them. They've got 32% of the employees in the country. So it's a big band of businesses. And you've only got 200,000 just over of the medium-sized businesses and then 36,008 of the massive side of businesses. So my sweet spot is in the 5.6 million and I edge into the 211,000. So I'm sure that that's pretty much a reflection of people that's on this call. So that's what we're trying to target. So each of these businesses has spare capacity. And let's just look at some examples. So the definition of spare capacity is the ability to earn more revenue without increasing your fixed overhead. So let's take a hotel, for instance. It might have 100 rooms. Just to keep the math straight, it sells every room for £100 and it's got a 50% occupancy. That tells me it's got a £5,000 a night revenue, but it also tells me it's got a £5,000 a night wasting capacity. So the hotel still has the receptionist, it still has the chef, it still has the wait staff, and they all get paid by the month, not by the amount of rooms that are sold. The rates are still paid, the electricity's on, the maintenance is paid. So the hotel and all the infrastructure is there, irrespective of whether it's got a 50% occupancy, a 49% occupancy, or a 51% occupancy, if you're all following my drift. So what I've done around the world and have done for 31 years is to work with businesses of all shapes and sizes, teaching them how to do something with the unsold capacity that they have in their business. If you look at a restaurant, it's empty tables. A magazine, it's empty ad space. So anybody that's running a magazine out there, if I rang you up a day before publication and says, can I squeeze another ad in? Then most of the time the answer is yes. That means that you've got spare capacity. If you're an online magazine, you've almost got unlimited spare capacity because you don't even have to print the thing. If you're a manufacturer, it's the machines. Are they running? If you've got it running an 8-hour shift a day, are they running for 8 hours? You've got all your staff in place, you've built your machines, you've got everything there, but are they on fully maximised 100% of every hour? If you're a retailer, it's talking about slow-moving, redundant stock. So here in the UK, I work with a number of retailers, and every year they have 2 seasons. So when they get to this time of year, they'll have a whole lot of summer stock that they try to clear, and you'll see that in the form of a discount in the high street. Now, whatever's left from that, they'll sell for 8 to 10 pence on the pound to what they call jobber companies, just to clear the old stock, get a bit of revenue in to make room for the new stock. Now, professional, which my guess is, as a reflection of the graph that I showed you before, that about 80% of the businesses here in the UK today don't sell a product. So what they're working on is selling time. So that's time either in time for money or in a SaaS, software as a service product, where you've got a subscription model. You've got the ability to sell more subscriptions or sell more time in a given period of time. So that's what spare capacity is. So if you just take a little think in all your businesses, and the litmus test is, if I rang you up today and said, hi, Mary, or hi, Joe, can you take on some more business over and above what you're currently doing at the moment without increasing your staff numbers and without having to move to bigger premises? And if the answer is yes, then you've got spare capacity. So that's what I'm talking about, is how can we take that spare capacity opportunity and turn it into some held value? So when we're doing that, we do it through a number of ways. To create a marketing budget is just one of the avenues. So how I turn spare capacity into held value is I work with customers who own businesses, and they sell that spare capacity to other people in my community. So we act as a preferred supplier community, and I can talk to people about how we do all that at a later time. Going back to my hotel example, if you sell another hotel room, the only cost in doing that is a bar of soap, a squirt of shampoo, and egg and bacon for breakfast, if you think through the math, because an empty bedroom is sitting there doing nothing. So if you sold that empty bedroom into my community, someone that owns a business comes and stays in the hotel, you get a digital trade credit at penny for penny. So if it's £100 a night, you get £100 into your BBX bank account. The only cost to the hotel is, as I say, the bar of soap, the squirt of shampoo, and the egg and bacon for breakfast. If that hotel owner then goes and buys £100 worth of these marketing services from another person in my platform globally, then they're buying, in this instance, marketing services, £100 worth for perhaps £5, which is the egg and bacon and shampoo and bar of soap. If people get lost with that bit, I'm more than happy to talk about it later. If you're a time-based business, then there's not even the bar of soap and the egg and bacon. It's just purely your time, which if you don't sell it today is worth nothing tomorrow and costs you nothing to sell if you had another customer to come and sell it to. If you're a magazine, same sort of thing. If you're a manufacturer, it's the physical cost of whatever it is that you're making. If you're a retailer, it's the cost price of whatever it is that the item that you couldn't sell. Now, a lot of people discount their work in order to turn some of that spare capacity into value, but that's a whole new session. I can talk to you about why I don't believe that discounting is a good thing. It should be value adding. But one of the great things that you can do if you sell a bit of spare capacity is buy some marketing services. So going back to my hotel example, you've had someone come in that's new to the hotel from my platform, so it's a new customer. If they like the stay, they can tell their friends and that'll drive more traffic to the hotel site. They're not staying in a competitor's hotel, so there's some good reasons why an empty bedroom is a ridiculous thing to leave empty if you can at all help it. And the same thing applies to every other business. So if you come out and buy some services, and some of the things that are available on my platform and things that I talk about, if you had some spare capacity, capture and monetize it, and then go and engage some of these services, in my opinion, is a good way of turning that spare capacity into marketing services, which if a bit of that works, then you're going to get pound sterling customers coming in back into your business. But you're doing it without having to outlay pound sterling in the first place. Because the difficulty we all have with marketing, someone told us that 50% of all marketing works. We just don't know which half. And if you go and spend £1,000 on marketing, it costs you £1,000. You go like that and hope it works to get a return on your investment. In my method, it doesn't cost you any pound sterling. Because you're using what was spare capacity in the first place, which was worth nothing. I hope I've got that point through. So many people on my platform use my BBX digital trade credits to rebrand their business, develop leaflets and promos, create brochures, B2B advertising, lead generation. I've just had a guy that came on this morning that's selling packages to go to a new drive-in. So people in Australia or where I'm from or America knows what a drive-in is. So this is going to be this year's drive-in panto. So you rock up in your car, you're in this big space and you watch a big screen, and that's where the panto's taken care of. You've got your Bluetooth connection to your speakers and you've got the heater in the car. And I've got an advertising package there for £15,000, which you don't have to outlay a penny. Use in the hotel example, they sell £15,000 worth of what would have been unsold hotel rooms to get their brand onto the screen for the showing. So there's just an example that came in this morning. I've got an exhibition, which I'll talk about in a moment, global one that's coming up. We've got networking groups, and these are all things that I think you should be spending money on or a little bit on. Building websites, refreshing your LinkedIn profile. Good grief, I just see so many people with bad LinkedIn profiles, and I just wonder why you do it in the first place. And then there's others that, the LinkedIn profile's got a picture of a dog or a cartoon character or stuff like that. And you think, if you were down the pub and you're going to get introduced to someone and someone had a mask on with a dog cartoon picture on it, you'd think, really? So, when you got your LinkedIn profile, make sure that when the other person sees it, you're the director of your own first impressions. We've talked about, and Abbie did brilliantly on running social media campaigns, and I've just given you a little hint on how to do that, perhaps more cost effectively. And there's plenty more smarter people running around the world than me that tell you how to do ad line campaigns and sales funnels and all sorts of things. So there's some of the things that people use a digital trade credit that was former worthless spare capacity to help run their business. These are some of the feedback, as I said, directly and indirectly. There's about 480,000 people that own businesses in the world. And just so that you know that I've run my own business. I've sold it twice and I'm back in charge. I've floated businesses on the stock exchange. So I'm talking to you from a person that's actually been there, done that with business. The only reason that I'm still working is that I love doing it. Every Monday is my perfect day. I love getting out of bed and saying there's a new week in front of me. So none of the stuff I'm giving you is stuff that I haven't tried. None of the stuff is from a textbook. This is all from the old University of Life. So business networks, get involved with them. You know, some of this is pretty obvious, but you know, you need to employ what I call the Goya theory. Get off your ass. Sorry for the French. But do something different to get a better result, because if COVID, particularly, if you continue to do what you've always done, you will not get what you've always got. So you will need to be doing something different. So get out there and join some networks. Get to conferences online. There's hundreds of them, like Paul's show today. What a great event so far, Paul. Yes, workshops and whatnot, leaflet campaigns, sponsorships. As I say, Google Words and Facebook ads work brilliantly if you do it correctly. And that tip that I shared with you before should halve your budget or double your reach, whichever way you want to look at it. I use LinkedIn profusely. I think it's a brilliant platform. And there's plenty of other things. Get your company website up to date. There's so many websites that I see out there that you click on and you think, really? You know, the contact details aren't up to date, or there's no clear clarity, or it looks like it hasn't been updated for a long time. There's just so many things going on that it makes me smile. So this is, in essence, what I'm talking about is capturing, monetizing spare capacity and turn it into pounds sterling by selling your unsold time to create a marketing budget that will then generate new cash clients. One other little tip that I've got from here on how to get into this, and if it's one takeaway, and I'm happy to discuss it with people after, it's not the easiest thing to get your head around initially, and I'll use it as a case study example. So let's say that you're a business of some kind and you haven't got full capacity. In other words, you're not telling people to queue up and come back and see you in 3 months when you can take on their business. You want to get out there, and you've got some people that are coming to you and say, look, yeah, you've got a great product, but not now. Can you leave it with me? I haven't got a budget till next June, or I want to think about it. And you need to get that your product into the marketplace or your service. Use your spare capacity to open a door. So let's say that you're doing you sell calculators, and your prospect wants to buy calculators. The sale is for £10,000, and the prospect doesn't really know whether your calculators are going to be any better than the calculators that they're currently using. So you say to the person, look, come and use my calculators for 6 months. The cost of doing that's £10,000. And to make it easy for you, I'll take back £10,000 of your hotel rooms if you're trying to get your calculators into a hotel. Now, you're then got your calculators into a new client. You've got someone that you can build a case study around. You can take a video and get a testimonial to the fact that they're using your calculators. The fact that they're actually using them means that if they're good, then they're likely to say in 6 months' time, look, I can't do without these anymore. I must renew. And then they'll pay you pounds sterling. What do you do with £10,000 worth of hotel rooms in the meantime, though? So you come to me, I sell them into my community, get you a digital trade credit, and you turn that money back into some of the marketing ideas I've just shared with you. I know that's a little bit hard to get your head around for some people initially. If you want to have a follow-up conversation after on how to specifically do that for your business, I'm more than happy to do so. This is a little bit comes from Harvard Business School, and a couple of the other speakers spoke about it on clarity, and it's just so simple. You think, really, you know, this is just such a simple thing. So when you're planning any of your marketing, start with the end in mind, which is how I recommend people do that in their business anyway. So do I know where I'm going? You know, would you ever go on holiday and not know where you're going? So why start a marketing campaign? For that matter, why start a business and not have the end destination in mind before you begin the journey? So like planning a holiday, most people put more time into planning their holiday than they do planning their business or planning their marketing campaigns. So you need to know where you're going before you can start on putting things together, and then work your way backwards, and then you'll get a proper plan in place. So then you can ask yourself, is it the right plan? And then, can I implement the plan? And if the answer to that's no, well, then you need to rethink it. If the answer to that's yes, then you've got something that you can put in place. Because what I see globally every single day is business owners struggling with their marketing because they haven't thought through this 3-step process. So that's another takeaway, hopefully, that some of you get. And that falls back to what Abbie was talking about, which was personas. What does a great customer look like? So there's a whole lot of things that you can put into that plan. So I know we're getting short of time, and I want to leave if there's any quick questions that Paul wants to get. This is my exhibition. So I had this brilliant brainstorm about 2 weeks ago, a little bit like Bob Geldof in Africa. I wanted to help all the small businesses globally. So I've just got my marketing guys together and got my team and said, let's put on an event. Let's make it 24 hours. Let's make it non-stop. Let's go around the world in 3 time zones. Let's get keynote speakers. Let's get interviews. And I've got an interview with Kevin Byrne, the founder of Checkatrade. And he started Checkatrade from his bedroom and sold it for 78 million quid. So that's going to be an interesting interview. I've got keynote speakers on customer service, on sales, on marketing, on budgeting, on digital, on online, on wellness, all sorts of things that are jumping into this show. I've got a link in it. It's on the 17th of December. And I know Paul's going to be a part of that. To help people out. So it's got all this stuff with networking and all sorts of things. So that'll be an interesting little project. And I walk the walk, because you can buy all the stands, you can buy access to the thing, and you can use your own spare capacity to fund the event. So Paul, that's, I think, me. I don't know how close we are to time.
Thank you very much, John. Yeah, it's a fascinating platform. It really is. I mean, I joined up about maybe a month or 2 ago, and I think within 3 weeks I was putting on a webinar for someone using my spare capacity, and I had money in my account, or the digital currency in my account. So I was really happy with that. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said about in these COVID times you have to look at doing things a bit differently. So it's a great time to do something like this. Very much looking forward to the event on the 17th of December as well.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's any questions, Paul, or...
Yeah, Abbas has asked, is there a way that you can calculate your spare capacity for your business?
100%, and there's a calculator on my website. So the instance is, if you've got a time-based business, you work out how much do you sell your time for. It's £100 an hour. How many hours do you want to work in a week? I want to work 40. Okay, so that tells me that there's 4,000 of opportunity. Then you go in the year and have a look, multiply that by 52. And if you're not earning that, then the difference between what you're currently earning and that number is your spare capacity.
Perfect, nice and simple. And there's a calculation on the website. I've added about BBX into the virtual goodie bag, so anyone can leave their details in there, and we'll set up a call or something to explain that in a bit more detail. Yeah, in terms of your event in December, then what would that be for attendees? What would they be looking at?
What they would see on the event?
Yeah, so what do they get from it? Do they connect with different companies, and is it like a trade hall?
Yeah. So there's a trade exhibition where there'll be hundreds of exhibitors there. It's in 3 zones. It's making money, saving money, and enjoying money. The three zones. So there's a lot of exhibitors there that they can have a look at and get some new ideas from. There's speakers, there's keynote speakers, there's networking events. So in each time zone, like an 8-hour period. So it starts here in GMT, then it works onto the American zone, then finishes in Australia Pacific time. So 24 hours continually. There's networking events on the hour. There's keynotes and interviews and ideas and inspiration through the whole show. So that's what a attendee will get. An exhibitor obviously gets to promote their business to the world.
Excellent. Yes, a lot going on. There was a question that came in earlier. What was the name of the startup with the bot clicks that you mentioned? Sorry.
This is beacon.com. So I'll put a link in the chat if you just bear with me a sec. Let's see.
Yeah, someone's asked for the calculator, so I'll share a link when we go to the break in a minute, because we can have a 30-minute break to grab a coffee or a bite of lunch or something before we kick on with the afternoon session. So we'll post the link in there as well. Yeah.
I've just posted in the chat, Paul, the This Is Beacon link. Perfect.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think that's all the questions that come in. Just in terms of BBX platform, I think you touched on it, but it is really wide ranging, isn't it? There's sort of anything you could hope to find on there.
I think there's 1,036 different category indexes. I saw someone from Yell.com before. So if you looked at the Yell.com index, ours is a reflection of that.
Yeah, perfect.
But all in the SME sector. So you won't find government, you won't find schools, you won't find councils. It's small to medium size, and the vast majority of them have turnovers of up to about £1 million, employing up to 10 staff.
Excellent. Okay, I think that's everything in the Q&A box for the time being. So I'll say a massive thank you there, John. We'll share, as I say, we'll share more details of your event after this, because I think that'll be fascinating for people to either attend or see if it could work for them.
It's been my pleasure, and I think I put my LinkedIn details. So if anyone wants a follow up, and someone once said, "Is the fortune is in the follow up?" So yes, go to these events, go to these seminars, but make sure you follow up after, because that's where you get the benefit.
Definitely, and Christine's just added in the chat box about linking up with a request that she has, so I'll connect the two of you after this.
All right, been my pleasure.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that. So on that note, we will we'll draw stumps there, and we'll say we're going to take a 30-minute break so that we can grab a coffee, as I mentioned, a bite of lunch perhaps. We'll be back at 12:30, where Kamar Raymond will be talking about SEO and optimizing your website. Thanks then, we will see you shortly. Yes, welcome back everyone to the afternoon session of the Marketing Masterclass. I hope, like me, you've got your coffees and your teas, or you've had a bite to eat and you are ready for the afternoon session. We're going to start just after lunch with Kamar Raymond. As you can see there, talking about SEO and optimizing your website. After Kamar's talk, we'll be moving on to the keynote panel discussion. And that will revolve around how to stand out online in 2020 and beyond. So we're going to be looking at the types of content, the methods of delivery, and so on and so forth. We've got a brilliant panel lined up for that. So I'm going to bring in Kamar Raymond now, who's going to talk about SEO.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us today. So we will be talking about how to optimize for SEO your website to generate more leads. But before we start, I thought it'd be good opportunity for me to give you a little bit idea of who you're listening to and what's my background and experience is. So my name is Kamar Raymond, and I got over 15 years of experience in delivering search engine marketing that includes both SEO as well as the Google Ads. And I'm currently running Q Online as a managing director. Q Online is basically a digital marketing. It's an award-winning digital marketing agency based in the London area. We set up this business in 2011, and we work with various different businesses coming from various industries, B2B and B2C, coming from really like manufacturing, hospitality, fashion, and various other industries that we have worked with. So I hope it will give you some ideas about me and my company. So let's get started with the webinar today. How do we use SEO to generate more leads? So guys, for me, the very first thing that is important is to make sure we have the understanding and we have a clarity on the SEO goals as well as the business goals. SEO goals are always said to generate the ranking goal traffic, and when it comes to the business goal, it's all about the leads, brand, and a new market. But we'll be focusing on more how we're going to generate the more leads. I think for me, the first thing we need to understand what kind of the mistakes that we make that fails our SEO strategy. And for me, that is whether we are an agency, whether we are a SEO team, or we are a business, we are always obsessed with SEO goals. We always always thinking and focusing and spending the money in SEO, growing ranking and growing the organic traffic, for example. But we don't touch the SEO or the business goal side. And also if we are like lots of SEO agencies, they get a client on the board, they hear from the client, they rush really towards delivering the SEO goals, start optimizing the website and getting the website ranking done. But what is the result? What happened when you follow that kind of strategy? What happened is that after a few months, you get to the point when the client's saying, when you're telling the clients, hey, I done an amazing job, my SEO has delivered X amount of traffic. The client saying, my phone is not ringing, I'm not getting any leads. What is happening? So it's not working for me. So you get to the kind of the conflict. But the reason is you started something with the wrong strategy. The both sides, whether it's a business or an SEO agency or the team, you never integrated the business goal as well as the SEO goals. So for me, it's important that if you are a business, a client, you make sure you brief the SEO agencies. What do you need from business point of view? And if you are an SEO agency, you want to make sure you understand the business. You really need to get into the business to see what the business is all about, and then make sure your SEO strategy is following and delivering those business goals. And the other thing is, it's important that the website you have, it applies to both sides, whether it's the SEO goals or the business goal. They need to come together and apply to the website. Okay, and we're going to move on to, we're going to be touching a few of these things, but let's move on to the SEO side. Okay, what we're doing in step 2 is we're going to start doing the SEO by making sure every element and every area that has a direct impact on an SEO, how are we going to use the area to make sure it's aligned with the business goal and it delivers you the right business results and it gives you the right business value from SEO marketing. So these are the 5 different areas that we define crucial or have a very direct impact on SEO, like strategy, website optimization, content, and the user experience. I'm going to look at every element in more detail when we dig into it. So looking at the strategy side, when it comes to strategy, I think the first thing we need to understand what strategy gives you. And if it's the business strategy should give you, or that should give to an SEO agency the detail like what is the sales target that business like to achieve, what kind of a niche the business is aiming to target, and who are the audience within that niche that you would like to, that the business is going to target and business aim to target, and where are those audience, where do they live? So you need to define the geography, and what is the marketing approach that the business was and is hoping to use to market their business. So this is the brief that need to go to the SEO team or agency that you're using. And when it comes to an SEO agency or the team in-house, your SEO strategy should define the keywords that are aligned always with the business goal. It should define a website that is again aligned with the business goal. To be honest, everything we're going to talk about today in every slide, this is one of the words that I'll be repeating all the time, is align everything with the business goal, because that's the real trick behind how you're going to generate the leads. And also the content. So the SEO strategy will define the type and how much content you need and what kind of the content needs and what should be the kind of the voice or what kind of the messaging or the context should be in the content. And in that SEO strategy, it will also define the techniques, the tactics that you're going to follow to get the business, deliver the business goal that the business asks you to deliver. So those things need to be defined in your strategy. And these are the things, if you are an SEO person, you need to brief, you need to present it back to the business. So business know how your SEO work is aligned with the goals that they have defined. So both sides need to be on the same page. Moving on, okay, so I'm just giving you an example of your strategy. So there's a business strategy example and SEO example. Without going into much detail, I just want to briefly touch. So for example, I just took an example of a dental emergency practice in Wimbledon, for example. They briefed us, they need 50 patients and they only want to target people who are in emergency, the new patient, that's the kind of the audience, the niche they want to target. And when it comes to the audience, they want to target male, female within the age of 30 to 50 or plus, because that's where they have more emergency cases. And the secondary one is 15 to 25, fairly young people, because there's less emergency cases there. So that's secondary audience. and they want to target Wimbledon and 10-mile radius area, and the approach they were asking us to use in SEO. And then what we did, we come out with the keyword research. We've done the research. We have delivered them all those script, the keywords along with the search volume, and we told what would their website would include when it comes to the emergency dental practice, all those treatment, what kind of content we need to include, and also the content what kind of content and what it will include when it comes to putting those kind of content and the context that we define the content we deliver to those people, to our clients. And the other thing we also shared with them, I think we do not hesitate in sharing the techniques, the tactics that we want to follow, we do share with our clients. For example, we will be building local pages, or we're going to optimize each page, or we're going to build the citation, or various other tactics that we use, we do share with our clients. And the most importantly in our SEO strategy, when we present it back to the client, we do put targets. We never leave things open. We never ever leave things open. I think this is the most important thing for you, because if you leave things open, you will end up having no pressure and you will end up having no focus there. So do put a timeline for your goals. So put the keywords or targets and tell them when are you expecting to achieve those things. So with the SEO strategy, so now we're going to look at, for example, within the SEO strategy, the keywords targeting, the keyword research and targeting. As you know, the keywords is the key area of the SEO. That's almost take over every area of your optimization or SEO. So keywords is the first area where what we found is most of the time your SEO strategy goes wrong when it's not managed properly. For example, the keyword, what you want to do when you're doing the research, for example, make sure you're always treating keyword research as an ongoing activity. This should never be your one-off activity. And the other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure you keep on kind of relying on various different tools. Don't just use one or two tools. For example, when we start the keyword research, one of the first things we do is look at the competition, because that's the easiest way to find the keyword that has already been used. So we do keep an eye on, and then we use various tools like SEMrush, Longtail, we use that. But when it comes to the selection of the keyword, you're selecting the keywords in the research, you want to again make sure the keywords relevant again to the business goals. And when it comes to the focus, make sure your keywords intent is aligned with the business. If you are a local business and you select the keywords because it has thousands and thousands of search volume, but it's a generic keyword, that's not going to help you. If you are a local business, you need to make sure your keywords are location-based. They're local keywords and they are relevant to your area and the geography as per the brief by the client. So make sure you do that. The other thing is all your keywords, all of them cannot be same priority. You need to define the groups. You need to define the priority order. These keywords are the way we group our keywords, we call them strategic keywords, secondary group, and the third and fourth group. So, but the first most important part, we call it strategic group. This is the group of the keywords that we say we want to make sure in any case, by any means, the client must have top 3 positions because this is the most important keyword. And we know this is more conversion. There are more leads, they're more relevant. So we always make sure those groups of keywords are treated as a strategic one. And when it comes to the implementing, we make sure that we select the keywords per landing page. So we know we're going to be using this group of keywords for this landing page. And then we also make sure we use those keywords and we apply in all certain areas of optimization, which we're going to cover in the next one or few slides. When it comes to the website, there's a few things which we think very, and we focus a lot in our SEO strategy. We make sure our client's website, they are in a flat structure. So what it means is that each and every page is at 1 to 2 click distance. It's not 4 or 5 distance, it's 1 to 2 click distance. But it's always aligned with the business goal. It has all different emergency treatments, for example. It has different location pages. It has other areas like general treatment as well, but we're covering creating lots of content around different type of emergency treatments that the clients do, and it helps. So it's always aligned, it's a flat structure, it's fully optimized website, and every page you go, it will focus on selling. It engage, it talks people's need, it touches people's the emergency problems and all the things, and it helps them to engage. And also, for example, if your website, I know I'm talking more in emergency, you can apply the same practice, whether you are in a B2B business or in a B2C business. That's kind of the practice you can apply in any website. So make sure your website has some kind of credibility. Like, for example, are you using a Trustpilot, or your website business has won any award, or you are ISO certified company, or any other like credibility that a business has. You want to make sure that's displayed, and when it's displayed on the website, you also want to make sure the website is very clear. It talks in a very clear way, it is a clear structure, and it guides the visitors on your website in a very clear manner, so people know where to go, what to expect from your website. Okay, moving on to, again, just giving an idea. So I've looked at the website. I'm just giving you a quick idea of a landing page. So when it comes to the landing page, what we normally do, our key area when people land, the first thing they see is an information that help us as a business or our client to discover about the client. Are they actually looking for emergency service? So we discover, they say yes, no, whatever the reason, they can engage. If they're happy, they are looking for an emergency, they're going to scroll down, and they have an opportunity to discover about dental practice. So they have the treatments, they got other details, so they're finding more information about the practice. And once they discover all the things, they're still happy to stay on the website. And now it's our opportunity. If we would like to qualify, so we're asking them, are you a private patient? You're looking for private treatment, or through the NHS? And obviously, they click on it, it opens a pop-up, we engage, we know this lead coming from NHS or private, so you have that. And also, you kind of giving them further guide that you work 12 hours and we are good, highly experienced team around, so you provide all that information. And as I said before, if you have any award, if you have any Trustpilot, or any other information, association with all of those things can be included here to build the credibility of the business and the page. Last but not least, in this page, you are giving an options to people can contact you. There's lots of call to action here and qualification here, but you also want to give an opportunity for visitors, if they like to book an appointment with you, you should give them some kind of the calendar. They can click on the calendar and always see you. They can book an appointment based on your availability. And so you're giving them that kind of experience, and you're giving them all that process where they can discover, find, qualify, and eventually they can book an appointment with you. I can share this is something we do normally with a lot of our clients' landing or campaign pages. And it helps lots of our clients to kind of automate the whole lead generation process. And I think this is what we highly recommend to our clients or anyone. When you're building a landing page, do think about these elements. Don't just create a page that needs some kind of information to talk about your services. Always think about discovery, always think about qualifying process, always think about credibility and how you're going to convert people into leads. Moving on to content side, guys, there are three things that are important within the content. I think there are a few things might be repeating, so I won't go in much more detail, but there are certain things that you want to do when it comes to the optimization. You make sure your content is optimized, whether it's a keyword targeting or it's internal links or your content. I think one of the key things in content, we say, you build the content in most cases. It talks about your services, it talks about the company, but it does not answer the question what people are looking for. So make sure you're building the context of the content in such a way that it's answering people's needs, it's answering people's question. If you do that, you're going to have an amazing content, and that's going to work a lot better for SEO or anything else. And make sure when you produce the content, is always relevant. As I always say, it needs to be always relevant, and always understand what is the purpose of creating the content. Because I keep on saying that it's not about talking about your business all the time and the product services. It's about making sure your content answers questions, it qualifies those visitors before they come to you, and it guides them, it directs them, and it converts them. Moving on to a few things in optimization. As I said, everything we've talked so far, we might talk in the next 1 or 2 slides, it's all part of the optimization process. But here are the few things that I want to touch to make sure you can use these areas to generate more leads. One of the mistakes that we do when we optimize the meta title, we stuff keywords. We become greedy almost. We want to include so many keywords. I think the key is you want to, okay, it can vary from person to person. Well, other people might think different thing, but based on an experience, the way we generate leads, we want to make sure you bring, you target 1 or 2 keywords, and then you also want to bring the USPs and call to action within the title. But when it comes to the meta description, I think for me, the meta description is a filter for your website. It filters irrelevant traffic before actually they land on your page, your website. So make sure you use it in a nice way. You don't want to stuff the keywords here, but what you want to do, you want to talk to the visitor that you are not 24 hours in emergency practice, for example. You want to tell them what they should expect when they land on your website. So the more you're transparent, the more you're going to qualify those leads, the more you're going to block irrelevant traffic and bringing the people who are actually interested in buying from you. So that's where that's the way you should be using the meta description. And headings. For example, headings in the content, again, plays a great role. If you're using your keywords in these headings, but also make sure you use these headings in a very meaningful way, so they keep on engaging the visitors and asking them to keep on next part of the funnel or next part of the page. There's always, when it comes to the conversion process, do you know what you normally do? You push the visitors to the next stage, and you don't sell it straight away. You push them to the next stage, you close the blog, and then you push them to the next until this whole boat goes into the river. And that's the kind of thing you want to do. You want to make sure you push people, you sell them the next part of the page, the next part of the page, the next part of the website. You don't sell the product straight away. And that's where the headings come in. They push the person to read more, follow page, and that's the strategy you should be using when it comes to the headings. And the last part in an optimization is include the internal links. Make sure your commercial pages, your treatment or service pages, or your revenue pages, they have the visibility on everywhere people go, or at least where they have the opportunity. Find out the most viewed pages, and in most cases, there might be your blog post, there might be your news article, there might be another page. Make sure you benefit those pages. Include the internal links of your key pages into those highly viewed blog posts and news content, and take the benefit and drawing traffic from those blog posts or news articles back to your revenue or commercial pages. Okay, we're moving on to the last element of the SEO, which is the user experience. As I said, it's coming in the last, but for me, this is the most important part of an SEO, because that's where the leads start coming. And that's where it damages the leads, or it starts coming the leads. So when it comes to user experience, there are 3 different audience, or 3 different areas where you need to pay attention to. For example, the first part is the search engines crawlers. So you want to make sure you're always making sure your crawlers or search engines are happy with your website experience. And the way you do that, as we said before, make sure your website has a flag structure. And also, normally what we do every quarter, we do audit for our clients. And when you do that, you want to make sure you keep on finding, if there are any issues, make sure keep on repairing. Overall, make sure your website is in a healthy shape. And we touched these 2 areas already. So moving on to click-through engagement, I think these are the two things. For example, if you're using the Google Analytics, that information is visible to the Google, and Google can understand by looking at the click-through and your engagement, like the bounce rate or the average time spent on the website. Google see these things as a clue for how good is your content, how good is your website. And if you can take care of these areas, these KPIs, not just the search engine is going to be very happy, but also the people who are coming on your website, that automatically shows they're pretty happy. That's why they're engaging in your website. And when it comes to the visitors, people coming on the website, you need to keep on making sure that they get the right content for you, the loading time. And no one like to buy any product or services when the website takes far too long to load. So make sure you have the good loading time and the clarity and credibility we touched earlier, that these are the things that people can trust more. If the clarity and credibility is not there, it's hard for visitors coming on your website to trust the website. And when it comes to the experience related to the business, I think what we're saying here is the business must have the user experience. The business experience is the customer services that is visible on your website, that is visible to the search engine, that is visible to the people. What kind of the customer experience you are giving that tells the visitor, okay, this is a credible business, this is a business that you can rely on, they're looking after you, they're giving you all those options to communicate. So you want to include various different call to actions that help the visitors to engage with you, to communicate with you. And the other thing you do, that I think that's, again, that there can be various different things that you can use within the lead magnets. Well, a few of the things that we recommend you, for example, you can produce some guide educational video for your website. Again, that's really plays a very, very good role, and it's very effective. We've done this one for a few accountancy businesses, for example, and it did really well. The webinar, we're all here to listen to the webinar today, and I just think webinar is one of the most useful thing to use because that's direct interaction with your audience, and it helps it definitely helps you a lot to build your credibility as a business. So you want to make sure you bring all those things. So there's an unlimited number of lead magnets that you can use, and I include a few of these things that, if it's relevant, you may want to try to use for your business. Okay, takeaway, guys. So what is the takeaway for this whole topic for today? What I'm suggesting that you guys is that if you're a business, just always think about SEO goals are not for you. Ranking and traffic is not for you. Business goal is what you should be focusing on, and that's for you. And if you're an SEO person, and if you're an agency or the team in-house, you don't want to start SEO until you have full clarity on business goal. As I said earlier, when we bring a new client, we spend at least first 2 weeks just about learning our client's business, their needs, their customer, what is their business goal, their market, their competition. We spend lots of time in learning about our client before we do anything. And if you're an SEO agency, you need to make sure you need to come out of those ranking and traffic mode. And what you need to always think about, the real KPI for you is delivering the business goals. And the other thing is, if you're working on SEO, different areas, you want to prioritize your SEO efforts, making sure you spend more efforts into the right SEO efforts more than you're doing everything the same way. For example, the keywords, we talked about it. You want to make sure you focus on the right keywords, or you spend more efforts into the right keywords than not so important keywords. And the other second last point that we would like to say, that the user experience is one of the most important part of your SEO strategy. Never ever overlook that. Never ever treat that as it's not part of the SEO. This is the area that damages the lead generation process, because user experience is overlooked, is ignored, and we always just pay attention to the search engine crawlers. And last but not least, please always make sure you track, you monitor, you report only on a business goals, SEO ranking. Normally what we do, we report on SEO ranking and SEO goals on a quarterly basis, but the business goals report goes every month, so the clients know what kind of value they're receiving from Q Online as an agency, from the money they're investing in SEO marketing. I hope this helps, and I hope you find it useful. If you guys have any question, please do let us know. I would love to answer all your questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Kamar.
No
There
problem.
are a couple of questions, so we'll get stuck into those very shortly. But yeah, that was fantastic talk. Really appreciate that.
No problem.
So we have a question here from Tolga, who's asked, how quickly do you think SEO can start delivering the leads if we follow your suggested process?
Okay, now, so the obvious question is how long it takes to generate leads from SEO. It really depends with a few things. So the first thing is, are we starting doing the SEO on a fairly new website? We're starting from scratch, or is an SEO that going to do on an existing website that already has traffic and all those things? But what we see that if we doing a local business and we're starting the website first time, but never done any website SEO before, I think we do see results within the first 2 or 3 months. We start seeing the clients start getting some results. When I say the results, we're always talking about the business results. We're talking about they start expecting or receiving some kind of the business leads and inquiries coming from the inquiry form, or people start calling you. So it give 3 months time to I think the fair time, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's a good answer.
But I think, but if the existing business got already traffic, there's a lot of quick wins that we find very quickly, and I think the results can be much more quicker than that.
Sure. I imagine it will vary as well from business to business. So one thing, I mean, I know this was a very quick run through, and I'm conscious of time, so we won't hold you too long. But one thing I don't think you touched on was link building. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. Look, the few things, the reason I didn't include it, the first thing is my presentation was already too long and I was trying to cut on my slides. So that's the one reason it's not there. But my main reason is really everything I included in my presentation. It's all about focusing on conversion. Whatever the things that I included, it has a direct impact on generating leads and improving the conversion. And obviously the link building it doesn't come in that context. Yes, it's a very important part of an SEO, and it needs to be considered and it needs to be done. And most of the marketing and SEO people, they know this already, but because of just 2 reasons, timing, as well as it doesn't have a direct impact on the conversion. So that's why it's not there. But I agree, it's absolutely great. You must include it.
Wonderful, thank you. There is another question in the Q&A box, but I'm conscious we've gone over on time. So what I'll do, I'll send that over to you via email if you want to get in touch with Hayley, who's asking about UX and SEO.
No problem at all. I'd love to answer.
Wonderful. Thanks once again, Kamar. It's an absolute pleasure hosting you, and thank you for lots of top tips there.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening. And please do follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn. If any question, do let me know. Happy to answer. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks.
Thank you.
As some of the eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted, some of our expert panel have been turning up for the panel discussion at 1 p.m. So I'm going to start bringing in the panel for that. So we have Aimee Gaudin. So let's unmute you and bring you in.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello, Aimee. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, all good, all clear.
Wonderful, I can hear you as well. So Amy's going to be moderating, and I'll do a brief introduction very shortly, but we'll just make sure all the rest of the panelists are in with us. So Paul, if we bring you in next. And so Paul Furlong's Creative Director at Opus Media.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Paul, thank you very much. Mark, if you could join us as well, please.
Get your hands off my chocolates. Get your hands off my chocolates. Hello, sorry, hello.
Focus on the important things, good man.
She was stealing my chocolates.
Thanks for joining us. And then Hayat, I'm going to ask you to unmute as well.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Hayat. Thank you very much. So we'll do some brief introductions in a second, but as you can see on screen, the idea behind this talk is to find out how to stand out online in 2020. We've got a lot of expertise on this panel, I think it'll be a fascinating talk, and I will hand over because this is not my expertise, and I'm just the host here. So I'll bring Aimee into the conversation. Aimee is a marketing professional based in London. She's worked on marketing campaigns for Facebook, Snapchat, Adidas, Selfridges, and many more, managing over 500 events globally, all over the world, from Tokyo to Paris to New York. She's a public speaker and co-founder of Become, helping women of colour to kickstart their careers with events, shadowing opportunities, internships, and mentoring sessions with the UK's most successful women. And also partnership with CAMFED, supporting women's education in Africa. Become also advise corporate clients on diversity and inclusion. So a fascinating background, and I'm sure it'll be a brilliant talk. So I'll hand over to you for the rest of the session.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, so just as Paul said, we're going to be talking all about how to stand out online in 2020. 2020, I think we can all agree, has been the year of change, some for better, some for worse, where everything and everyone came online, from the online quizzes to Zoom parties, virtual talks to TikTok. The digital world has gone from being one of the key methods of communication to being absolutely essential for us to be able to engage and socialize with the outside world. So what does that mean for brands? That's what we're going to be digesting today. The competition is obviously fierce. The sheer volume of content out there means it's harder than ever to be able to stand out. We have a panel of experts who'll be shedding some light on how you and your business can stand out online. So I'll let our panelists introduce themselves. Welcome, Hayat Rachi.
Hi, yes, thank you, Aimee, and amazing things that you're doing in your projects as well. So yes, I'm Hayat Rachi. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at React and Share, newly appointed. And React and Share is all about content improvement for communications teams. We're all about empowering communications teams all around the world to improve their content. And before becoming CMO at React and Share, I had my own company called Neon Moon, which was a B2C play. So we had empowering and feminist lingerie for women of all shapes and sizes and sold all over the world. So I have a very good idea and knowledge around marketing from a B2C standpoint, but also B2B. So hopefully that will help the people who are attending today.
Definitely. Nice to meet you, Hayat. And we have Paul Furlong from Opus Media.
Good afternoon, Aimee, and everyone who's listening. Yeah, I'm Paul Furlong from Opus Media. I'm creative director there, and we connect people to your brand through creative video and photography.
Brilliant. Nice to meet you too. And last but not least, we have Mark Gaisford from Red Sprout Media.
Hi, Aimee. Hi, everybody. Yeah, great to be here. We're Red Sprout Media, and we predominantly work with B2B companies and essentially do exactly what this talk is all about, helping them to stand out from the crowd, get noticed, and build their businesses.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll jump right in. Content marketing is the most powerful form of business development. So I actually pulled this gem from redsprout.co.uk, who help brands with online reputation, lead generation, and brand building. You should absolutely check them out. If anything, just for their hilarious videos. I've had a great morning looking at one of those. So Mark, can you talk us through the reasoning here? Why is content marketing the most powerful form of business development?
Because no one likes to be sold to any longer. I mean, we all hate cold calls with a passion now. I mean, I don't know about everybody that's listening, but I think cold call numbers have decreased massively over the years. I'm old now, so I remember when when you were trying to build a business, you had a copy of the Yellow Pages and a telephone, and off you went. And things have changed so massively now. But there are some industries that still that is their go-to, and it hasn't changed much. And especially with what we're going through this year, where eyeballs are now firmly fixed on a screen most of the time, we can't go networking, we can't meet people, and so actually allowing people to get to know you through content marketing just plays to the fact that in most B2B scenarios, people buy from people, and so if they feel like they know you, they're much more likely to come to you when they need what you do. And that's why I make that statement that content marketing is the most powerful form of business development. Most companies have now got to be You said this before in the intro, Amy, you know, cutting through is now so much harder because there is so much content out there. And many businesses have got to become a little bit braver and step off that fence and start doing stuff that will cut through. So, you know, we before we were a marketing agency, content marketing agency, we were a recruitment company. And that is one of the industries where business development for years and years and years, it hasn't changed much. You get on the phones and you talk to people, and so you know, we went from being an outbound salesy organization through our content marketing strategy. We became completely inbound, and we never made any form of outreach whatsoever, and that was all through content marketing. So yeah, it worked for us.
That's really interesting. And hey, I could see you nodding your head there. Do you agree as well?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like when you put out really good content, which hits the needs of your personas, hits the needs of your customers, and even segments that you didn't even know that you needed, you know, or your product or your service is actually hitting, it builds you up, not only personally as your own brand, but also your company. And I completely agree on the fact that, yeah, you know, it's all a people's game. So whether you're going after the government, which we at React and Share, we work with the government, we work with, you know, businesses. It doesn't matter who you're working with, it's all a people's game. So completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk some of the trends at the start of this year. So this is pre-lockdown. What kind of online trends were we seeing then? Paul, I'll start with you.
There's been obviously the main trend. There's an awful lot of people who've gone online who maybe weren't online. There's been some stats released recently that's seen what e-commerce has happened. So if you look just at the medical products that have been sold online, the increase in sales for medical products online has gone up by 500%. E-commerce for baby products has gone up 350%. I think the average across the board has been about 100% increase in e-commerce. So just looking at the sales that have gone on online, it's increased just since the beginning of March by about 100% across the board, which has been amazing. But you look at all of everybody's gone online. Christmas shopping's gone online. I know everyone's dying to get back out into the shops, but Christmas shopping's gone up online. So everybody's gone online. From where I sit as someone who produces video and photography content, the thing that I keep an eye on is the amount of video content that's produced. The amount of video content that's produced this is before lockdown, in a month, the amount of video content that's put onto YouTube in a month is more than the amount of television content that has been put on telly in the rest of history combined every month, which is just an insane amount of content, and that increases every single month. And since lockdown, that's been even more. And most of it's garbage. Most of it's rubbish. That seems to be the case. The amount of photography that goes on, you think about all the photos of people's food and people's dogs that go onto Facebook and Instagram and all the rest of it. So the internet has just exploded since the beginning of lockdown. And as the title of today's talk is, how do we stand out amongst all of that rubbish and all of that nonsense? We need to, before we had to find strategies to do it, now more than ever we need to find strategies to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I remember seeing a TikTok video recently, which was just someone unboxing an iPhone, and it had millions, literally millions of views. And you just think, how? Why? There's so much content out there. People are just kind of really reeling through it, aren't they? I remember just before, I think it was the week before lockdown, it was probably London's last event, really. I gave a talk at Christie's auction house on innovation. And I asked the audience, I started with, why are you all here? Which is quite aggressive in hindsight, but I basically was insinuating, you know, they could have watched it live at home, but they'd come for the experience. They'd come for that interaction, to be amazed and inspired. And, you know, a week later, with the lockdown, it meant people no longer had that choice to experience something in person. So, you know, fast forward to now, how have the trends kind of furthered along? Feeding off what you said, Paul. Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, Paul's absolutely right. There's so much rubbish out there. It's unbelievable. People, and the thing is, I think we, you know, even on LinkedIn, which is, I suppose, one of the major channels that we work with our clients on, the algorithm is now changing to get rid of that rubbish, and so it stops serving you up this utter rubbish of people walking down the street with a mobile phone going, "Hi, I'm just going to a meeting." Well, no one gives a shit whether you're going to a meeting or not. No one cares. We've got to get better. And so I think we're doing a test on LinkedIn this week, which is based around the fact that they have dropped substantially. The algorithm has substantially dropped the number of video views. So we've all gone, a lot of people have gone, "Oh my God, that's it, video is dead." It's absolutely not dead. But what you've got to do is produce content that is entertaining, engaging, relatable, inspirational, educational, stuff that people actually want to see. And when you produce content like that, you've got an audience. I mean, we can see this over YouTube. Look at Casey Neistat's stuff. Casey Neistat's done video for years and years and years. I mean, he's a pro, so the stuff is very, very good. But it's when you actually break the content down. The one I saw most recently was him and his issue with the soap bar falling off the shower. And you think, how can you make a story out of that? And yet you're sat there for 8 minutes watching this video about how he's going to get around the problem of the soap bar falling off the side of the bath. So it's more than just saying, "Oh, I've got a good idea for a piece of content," and then the verbal diarrhea comes in and you just type it. It's actually, how do you turn that idea into something that people will want to watch? And that, for me, that means work. That means hard work, real thinking about how you're going to take that idea and turn it into something that's consumable. And then you're going to be a star at video. But most people, and this is where I come from as well with the sort of whole business development angle, is that people rush at it, they don't put the work and effort in, and then they fail too quickly, they switch off too quickly, so it doesn't work because you were crap at it, and you've got to learn how to do this. And when you do, then it becomes a really good business development channel for you. But there's a lot of work and effort that has to go into that.
And I would love to say on the back of what you just said, Mark, I completely agree. But also I think that customers are super savvy nowadays. They know when someone's being inauthentic and just putting like clickbait stuff out there for the sake of it. And I don't see how they could generate any revenue, any leads, any communication, any just like repertoire of like being very good within your space. And customers are the super savviest now, so they would know whether a video is actually willing to teach them something, whether to educate them, whether to entertain. I'm all about either you educate or you entertain people and your potential customers, but also you bring them into the world where they actually like you as well. Because I have a rule, when I had my own company in the past and even now, I don't work with anyone that I dislike. So I think that's pretty true with a lot of people who are spending a lot for like our services or our businesses. So I think just putting out very good content that's actually just very in line with what they want. And so it's so transparent and saying, actually, here's our team, we're all on Zoom, this is what we're doing today, but something that's interesting or educational.
That's really interesting. So here you're kind of saying, so like Mark was saying, turn content into something people want to watch. But there's a fine line there, I guess, as well, between brands maintaining their own authenticity and not kind of selling out for whatever reason. So I guess this year, obviously, as well, we saw activism being addressed by brands a lot on a global level. The Black Lives Matter movement was an incredibly important moment that challenged individuals and brands on race, the treatment of Black and brown people, racial profiling, unconscious bias. It was discussed largely on social media, which obviously there's a lot of video content on there, with brands making promises and, for the first time, in some cases, representing diversity. It sparked a lot of discussions. I think we've all seen good and bad examples of performative and truthful marketing in equal measure. Do you think that activism has a place in marketing then? Mark, if we start with you.
Yes, I do, because I think like you say, it's got to be grounded in either who you are, what you genuinely believe, what you are about. I mean, if I was to come out for our brand at Red Sprout, I wouldn't do anything on Black Lives Matter because it wasn't something that I felt I had a voice about, and it would therefore become quite inauthentic, and people would see through that. So my choice was, okay, well, there's a heck of a lot better people talking about that and talking about that much more effectively, and it's going to cut through more deeply if they do it. It's not an area that I feel like I'm specialized enough to be able to go into, and so that was a choice that we made. But absolutely it does, because I think it plays to who you are as a brand and what matters to you, and that's the reason that people then buy from you, because they're hooked into who you are and what you believe in. But inauthenticity is the curse of a lot of marketing, because people want to follow that trend and jump on that bandwagon, and we've seen many examples, I'm sure, I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, of where that spectacularly fails. And so, yeah, you know, if you haven't got anything to say, don't say anything.
Yes, exactly. And it doesn't mean that as an individual you aren't kind of going out there and making sure that you're learning and, you know, being inspired by others and bettering yourself on that subject.
Absolutely.
It just means finding that difference between speaking as a person and speaking as a brand. Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely agree with everything that Mark said. And the one that really springs out to me was the one that Nike did, the You Can't Stop Us split screen advert that they did at the start of the year. That was just absolutely sensational. It was done so authentically as well. And who doesn't love watching a bunch of MAGA people burn their $200 trainers across America? That was fun to watch as well. So I thought that was brilliant. And as you say, it's all about the authenticity, isn't it? And not always around something that's necessarily as divisive as Black Lives Matter was. But you look at how Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have got involved with some of the charities that they've been involved, and they've brought that right into the Aviation Gin and the Laughing Man coffee that they do, and they've done it exactly how they do all of their stuff. But they've managed to bring what's true to them and what's kind of true to their hearts, and they've been able to help so many people through their branding, and they bring it in with their kind of typical sense of humor into all of their branding as well. So I think there's definitely a place for it, and why wouldn't you want it in your marketing, provided you're doing it from that place of authenticity and you're doing it honestly. As soon as you try and do it without any of that, people, as Hayat said, people are going to see right through you.
Exactly.
And you're going to lose all credibility.
So is it a case then of every company should speak about it in some capacity, but only if they're working with the experts or the people that it's affected in some way, as in they shouldn't kind of go for it without having that kind of expertise behind them?
I think there's danger there, isn't there, if you do that and you step into a subject that and you are literally jumping on that bandwagon to try and get some sort of traction on something that is a big issue, and you think, oh my God, I'm going to go for that because that will do us a lot of good. You're going to fail spectacularly doing that. And so I'd still say, look, if you haven't got anything to say, don't say anything at all, or very much work with the experts, really understand it. It's like, I mean, for example, this morning I was driving and there was it was on LBC radio, and there was a woman from this not-for-profit called Excluded UK, and they're basically supporting and getting behind all of the small company directors and self-employed people who've had no support from government throughout this thing. And then she said, yeah, we've lost 7 to 8 of our members recently. And Nick Ferrari questioned her, said, what do you mean you've lost them? Well, they've committed suicide. And so suddenly when you hear stories like that, and then from me, I thought, oh my God, I have got to do something about this, because I then felt very passionately about this subject, but something that I hadn't investigated in before. So there may well be a piece of content from us coming on that in the future, but I need to do my research and understand it. I've already got the passion, but now I need to back it up with the facts. So I think that's the journey I would take.
That's really interesting. You have to change internally before externally. Yeah, Hayat, what do you think?
Yeah, I think on this topic, it's so hard, because I think anything that comes down to like human rights, diversity, inclusion should definitely be spoken about. And I think customers are super savvy, whether it be from a B2C or B2B play. They would recognize that if all these other companies within your competitive space are speaking about something that really matters to them, like Black Lives Matter, or any topic on like something that's just human centric, they would say, why has that company not said anything? Like, why are they quiet, you know, when everyone else is speaking? But also in the same vein, you don't want to, like Mark said, jump at something and have a completely ignorant and naive point of view that just excludes everyone and all your potential customers, because then cancel culture will kick in. So I think that there has to be a fine balance between, firstly, you're the best person who understands your customer and what their point of view would be, but also the whole aspect of marketing and where I find dear is, I don't think that we should always pretend to be perfect. I think just being vulnerable and saying, hey guys, actually, I don't know much about this topic, but what I saw was completely wrong. And as a company, we're learning more about this topic, and we're going to really, commit to this. And we're not just all talk, we're actually action as well. And especially, I think within Britain, we definitely value people who actually do the things that we expect them to do and not just talk about it. And when the next trend or fad comes in, they jump on the next bandwagon. So I think just being very true to yourself, but also as a company, take a firm stance. Are you talking about it, guys, or are you not? And just make sure that's the stance that you take, and be very firm with that, because the minute that one person within your team does something completely different because it's in line with their personal values, you need to take complete reins of it. And I think that's where I would stand on that.
Yeah, that's some really interesting points there. There's that difference between calling in and calling out. And nobody that I know anyway wants a witch hunt for a brand. There are ways to do it in a respectful manner that help educate a brand. And, with Become, from a D&I perspective, I never go to a company and say, slap their wrist because they haven't done enough. It's all about putting your hands up, like you say, and just saying, if we haven't done anything, how can we do better? Yeah, some really interesting points there. Okay, Hayat, I want to come back to you because I want to talk about the theme of empowerment. So obviously that was a really integral part, I guess, of your lingerie company, Neon Moon, which I'd love to hear more about. So do you find that empowering your audience is an important part of marketing as well?
Yes, so I exited from Neon Moon earlier this year, and I started it 6 years ago when body positivity wasn't even a topic in the news. Even feminism wasn't even a topic in the news. So bringing in an aspect that was completely dear to my heart, I felt like I wanted a brand that evoked and empowered women, and it was completely bold. People were laughing about it, but it made the headline press. And this was literally me starting my own company with the help of the Prince's Trust in my front room, just me. And I had managed to get into the Daily Mail, Huffington Post, the Telegraph, Good Morning America, all these major publications, because they were like, what is this? And I think bringing the sense of empowerment, whether it be through B2C in line with exactly what your customers want. Do they care about the environment? Do they care about, the eco-centric of where is it made, the supply chain, whatever it is, but also in the B2B world, do they care about the price points? Do they care about the service that you're giving? Do they care about the people? Would they be working with someone within your team? What do they care about? And then that way you would be able to empower them. So for example, here at React and Share, at the minute, we're just helping loads of communications teams improve their content. They don't know how to and the ways to actually do it. So we empower them by actually bringing this human-centric side of teamwork and showcasing how it could be improved in the package. And that way you could actually create new packages for people through a B2B play, because then you could include, oh, actually, you know what, if you really value me to explain it and handhold you, that's completely cool. Obviously that comes at a price, but we could definitely do that. And I think empowering your customer, whether it be in a product-based segment or a service segment, God, is bloody alliteration, is the way to do it, especially now where, we're removed from this human-centric aspect of meeting in real life and going for a coffee. So I would say empowering people in however the means that they want to be empowered. Where are the shortfalls? Where are their issues? And where can you fill that gap and do it for the best of your ability and go above and beyond any of your competitors and just empower them with so much information that they feel like you've given them so much value in everything you're doing, every single touch point, every single just communication. So then they absolutely love you and they want to befriend you. I think the point where they want to befriend you is a point that that you've done an amazing job.
Yes, I love that. Be a friend with your audience. And the kind of, I guess, empowering and emotions, you're really appealing to their emotions here. Paul, you talk about the kind of the buying decision being an emotional one. And I guess in such a volatile year where emotions are higher than ever, how does emotion affect content?
So I think all content needs to be emotion-led to begin with. Because buying isn't such an emotional decision, we might rationalize it later on, but all buying is an emotional decision. We need to make sure that all of our content is emotional.
Yeah.
So whether that's written content, whether that's video content, whether that's pictorial content, it all needs to connect with our target audience on an emotional level. So that starts with knowing who we're targeting. Otherwise, we don't know how to connect with them emotionally. So we need to know who is going to be, who we want to be seeing the content. And then we need to know how we're going to connect with them on that emotional level. And once we know that, we can start to craft the story that we want to tell them. And then once we know the story that we need to tell them, then we can start to craft how we're going to add those emotions into it. And the way that we find to kind of craft the emotion is to make sure that we keep coming back to this word, don't we? Authentic. We can't be manipulative in any of our emotional elements, in any of our marketing, and any of our storytelling, because everyone's far too savvy. There's that word again that Hayat's used a few times. So we need to make sure that we're not manipulating. So I absolutely hate Christmas adverts, and I know that's probably a controversial thing to say. I hate them.
But look at the emotion, Paul.
It's not about my lack of emotion. I'm a very emotional person. It's about how manipulative they are. I find that they are overly manipulative, and I find that they prey on everything that is wrong with marketing. And
they can be quite painful sometimes.
They are, aren't they? They are. And you know, for the first time, I found one that I liked because I thought they got the emotion spot on.
Which one?
If you've not yet seen the full-length Amazon advert for this year,
yes, The Show Must Go On.
The Show Must Go On.
Amazon,
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think they trod the line between emotion and manipulation absolutely perfectly. And the reason I think it's so good is because they just got it where they raise your hope and then they kind of bring it back down. They raise your hope, they bring it back down. They're not overly prescriptive with the music. They're not telling you what to think with the music. It's not sweeping strings, and it's not all of this. They just let it play out, and they allow the emotion they allow the shift in the emotion, which is important because you can't just have one emotion all the way through. Otherwise it's not emotional. It's just kind of plain. But they allow the emotions to shift as you'd expect, but they're playing into our experience, which is how we're all experiencing at the moment. It's nothing soppy. It's not a bear and a rabbit and any of this nonsense. It's playing into our emotion and our experience that's at the moment without crossing that manipulative line. And I think it's actually absolutely brilliant. And it's the first one that I've seen, I think, ever, where I've gone, that's a Christmas advert that I can get behind.
That is high praise indeed. And I'm with you. I think it's a really genuine, positive Black representation. It's not performative in what it's trying to achieve. Mark, I got a lot of sort of warm emotions from your videos on your website.
Oh, thank you.
It's so funny. I was really laughing.
Self-deprecation always works, Aimee. That's what it is. You see, take the piss out of myself and everyone will just join in laughing. I
love that. But so emotion, is that an important part of your videos?
Oh God, yeah, it really is. Yeah, I mean, we tend to go for entertainment value a lot of the time because I'm just a great believer. I mean, it's just my sense of humor anyway. And again, that plays to authenticity. So I'm an idiot, and so I'll play the idiot. And I think this is an important thing as well. You know, I think a lot of companies will sit on the fence for fear that they will alienate a proportion of their audience. Oh my God, alienate that proportion of your audience, because not everyone in the world is going to like you. And so just be you, be genuine, be authentic, but yeah, you know, if you're an idiot like me, then play the idiot. And there would, you know, you're going out to a huge audience, 20-30% of which won't like you, but 70% of that much bigger audience will, and those are the ones that you want to do business with. It comes back to what Hayat said earlier on. You know, we don't do business with people that we don't like. What the hell? There's no fun in that either. I mean, that relationship is going to break down fundamentally at some point. So, you know, play to yourself, be yourself, and allow the people that like that to come to you and do business with you. And that's, I mean, we keep it very simple, but you know, that's my mantra.
Yeah, and that completely worked. And that was the key to the success of my first company, Neon Moon, which was the fact that using the word, even the simplest of word of like feminist, just created a boundary. Either you love it or you don't. And the people that didn't like even evoke or even call themselves a feminist, they just weren't our customer. So I always said to my team, who were very scared of the amount of like brash and bold marketing that we were doing at the time, was I said, it's actually good that we're alienating them. Do you know why? It's because we're not only creating our little segment and our little niche, but also we're saving money, because this way all of these people who dislike our brand and don't want to read it, they will never click through. And secondly, we can only just allocate our time and our effort and actually garner the customers who actually exactly are completely correct for us. So everyone else can go to our competitors. That's completely fine with us. That's what they should do. And I think having that just embedded in your team from the very start is very key, because being bold from the start means that you're only going to go in an upward trajectory. The minute you start pandering and watching what other people do and your competitors do and try and follow them, you're just 2 steps behind. So it's just like you're not even competing in that phrase. Also with what Paul said, which I think was again such a key point as to why my B2C company did exceedingly well, was the fact that behavioral economics and behavioral psychology behind the feelings and the emotions and how you can use that. So it's kind of like figuring out what the pain point is, but not over exploiting it, not being just completely manipulative, because customers are super savvy, like we've said throughout this whole conversation, and they would be able to see that actually this company is just playing on the fact that I have this insecurity. Like, no, I'm gonna cancel them, that's it. Like, and that's it, your reputation is done. All 5 years or 6 years that we spent, it's just gone down the pan. So I think it's just important to not only learn and read about like behavioral psychology and how you can use that on your website and colors and what's more trusting, and evoke that sense of trust, because I would imagine that everyone watching here today is a small company or a smallish like SME company who are competing against the big boys. These big boys have millions of pounds, billions of pounds in some cases to spend on marketing, literally just like this, you know, in terms of like money. Like, it's just like, it's crazy that they just absolutely just like lace the market with all of their marketing material. But we have to be super savvy, super key, use the fact that we are genuine, hardworking people, and we have companies that really showcase the value and just do the way in which it just evokes trust. It evokes a human-centric element that these big boys can't do, and just change and pivot as quickly as possible, but also be the front runner, like Mark said, be the boldness and be the brashness that these big companies will not do, unless they are Nike, which they're doing perfectly well.
So be human, really, be bold, be brave, be emotional, don't be scared of that. So I think then it sounds like there's a fine balance. It's, you know, content takes time. What we think our readers or viewers want to hear and see, and what they actually want to hear and see, can be 2 very different things. So I know React and Share have some amazing software that gives you the metrics on which content is doing well and shows the areas of improvement as well. So what are the tricks or shortcuts, getting technical here, to creating and optimizing good content?
Yes, sure. So as I said from the start, I'm newly CMO at React and Share, and what we do is we're all about improving content. So what we do is we actually listen to the feedback and the customers who are actually reading the content on any page. So for example, we work with the government, armed forces, anywhere that has like loads of content, even like the police force. And by having like a way of seeing what your actual readers and your actual customers are saying, you'll be able to use that as insights. So for example, with the reaction share tool, you'll be able to see that people are saying, oh, this page just hasn't highlighted what I was looking for. So like any example really. And then by using that piece of feedback, you'd be able to then, by the time that you want to improve your content, you would use that piece of feedback to then improve it. So that way it kind of removes the guesswork completely. So any way that you could do that, even without React and Share, would be like just listening to what your customers are saying on social media platforms and any other platforms. And I would say use these little nuggets that you would be able to really understand. And then once it comes to the content, improve it and pivot it, and little iterations every time. With that consistency that you'll be able to create, just seeing little, even like 1% improvement every time, you could be so far ahead than your competitors in like a year. It's absolutely insane that just like sheer small consistent improvements can lead you to that point. So that's what React and Share does, and we do that with like huge organizations who are just totally committed to improving their content. And in this day and age, you have to improve your content. You have to make sure your content is absolutely on point, because the first thing that your customer or your reader is going to do, if they don't find it on that page, they're going to jump off that page, go back onto Google and land on your competitor's page. And that is the worst thing you don't even want. Like, I think it's worse if a person leaves your website, they're actually on it and leaves and goes to a competitor, instead of them actually never finding you at all. In my opinion. So it's all about, once you spend the money, the hard work to get these people onto your website, make sure that everything is in line and in gear with what exactly they were looking for, exactly what they wanted, with the trust factors that make them feel like they have a warm hug on your website, that it's all safe, that they can part with either their money or their time to speak to you. And, you know, React and Share, we do that a lot.
Amazing. And so which platforms or tools in particular would you recommend to stand out online in 2020? So Mark?
So I think, so from a social media perspective, B2B, and I think actually I think there's a massive opportunity on LinkedIn for B2C. I don't think it's happened yet, but my God, B2C brands, some of the B2C brands that are doing stuff on LinkedIn right now are really rocking it. And there are very few big, good content creators in the B2C space on LinkedIn, so get on now. In terms of social media channels, LinkedIn is still, even though the algorithm is tightening all of the time, is still a channel where you can build organic growth. So you don't have to spend money on LinkedIn ads. It will change. We've been predicting it for the last couple of years, and we're seeing it happen in front of our eyes, but it is still possible to build organic audiences and organic reach on LinkedIn. And so B2B, B2C, absolutely be all over LinkedIn. I think it's more difficult or nigh on impossible to build organic reach on places like Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok, really, really good organic reach there. But those are probably the only two channels where you don't have to be spending a fortune. And like Hayat was saying here, you know, these are probably a lot of small businesses here who have not got massive marketing budgets. And so the tools and the ability to be able to create something amazing and to really cut through is in your hands, and you don't have to spend a fortune. You don't need us to be able to help you do that. You need to do some work, and you need to learn how to create great content. But these channels like LinkedIn and TikTok, they're there for the taking. Go take them.
Brilliant. And Paul, what other platforms or tools would you recommend to stand out online?
Yeah, so particularly from a video perspective, there's two that I'd really point out. The obvious one is YouTube. So YouTube's owned by Google. Google's the biggest search engine in the world, and YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. I think people forget that. It's also a social media, which is great. And behind your video within YouTube, there's a little bit of analytics, which is great. So there's a little bit of engagement graphs and a little bit of heat mapping. You can put a few meta tags, a few hashtags in there, which is great. The other one, which is you do have to pay for, but it's got a lot more analytic tools. There's a lot more heat map and engagement graphs and that kind of thing, is Wistia. And that's definitely worth, if you're doing a lot of video content, of getting behind. The great thing about heat mapping and the engagement graphs is similar to what Hayat said, is you can see how people are reacting to your videos. So if suddenly after 22 seconds you're getting this massive drop off from your video and it's 3 minutes long, then you know at 22 seconds into your video something's gone wrong. It might be that you've said something that's offended everybody. It might be that the music's too loud. It might be that the edit that you've done at that point didn't work. So you can go back and you can re-edit the video, you can change the music, you can say something different, you can change the edit. It just gives you that analytic information so that you can make sure that people are paying attention and they're staying engaged throughout the video. So Wistia is great. I think it's from like £99 a month. So if you're putting out a lot of video content, Wistia is brilliant. The other great thing it does is it allows you to put a clickable link into the video from the very beginning. So if you're looking to kind of generate leads and collect data from the very beginning of your video, you can put in a data collection tool right in the video, so no one has to wait till the end of the video, find the website that they have to go to, type in the website, find the contact form to put all the data in. It's right there in the video, and that you can collect the data from the very start of the video. So it's a great tool to have for your video content.
That's brilliant. So that's a great metric to see how people are enjoying it and what you can change in the feedback there. Are there any kind of ways to track the success or the ability to stand out? You know, what metrics can we use there to say you're doing well, you are standing out from the crowd?
Money in the till. That's what it comes down to, though. That's what it comes. That's all this comes down to. You know, you may go through early stages when you're starting out to create content. It's not going to immediately translate into money in the till. So actually, you know, audience building, reactions, engagement, comments, all of those things that everyone outside marketing calls vanity metrics, they're important because they show whether people are engaging and enjoying that content. Same as Paul was just saying with that video analytics piece. That analytics of that content is so important at the early stage, but ultimately what we're all in this for is to make the tills ring. So at some point there is got to be a relationship between I'm making lots of content and I've invested thousands of pounds in it, X thousands of pounds or X numbers of hours of time, and that's translating into, you know, this many pound notes coming in through the front door. That's what it's all about.
I think it's important to know which bits of content are working. So it's good to know. I mean, you can do it the old-fashioned way, can't you? And we do this as well as all the other metrics that we measure. But when you get a client, ask them how they heard about you. Yeah. And then you can have a very simple spreadsheet.
Exactly.
And we have one of these. So if they heard about you because they watched a video, great, tick in the box for video. If they heard about you because they read a bit of copy on your website, tick in the box for copy on the website. If someone referred you, tick in the box for referral. Really, really simple way of measuring what's working and what's not. And if it's working, do more of it. If it's not working, stop or get an expert to come and help you.
Completely agree with just what Paul said. We're all about containing and measuring the marketing efforts. And I think within marketing, there's only two key metrics from our point of view, or from my point of view, which is one, customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost us to get one new customer every single time? And two, what's the lifetime value of that customer? And make sure that the customer acquisition costs are as low as possible and the lifetime value is as high as possible. So then that way, the gap you'll be able to play with. So that's room, like that's extra money to play with for the marketing of the, you know, next time or the, you know, whatever. So, and I think that exactly what Paul said, just measure whatever's working, put a tick in that box and mentally be like, okay, you know, I got that customer through that way. How much am I getting out of them? How much did that cost me in terms of the video? And then that's the room to play in. But also in terms of, I just want to add in terms of like software to use, because I'm a big advocate for like very cheap or free software. So I would say Fiverr.com for any work that needs to be doing. And I'm a big advocate for people who, if you're a sole entrepreneur, so you're the only person in your company, start to just outsource things, even if you know you could do it. I think it's just important to really advocate to just work on stuff that actually generates money, like Mark said, money in the till. So you shouldn't be doing like stuff to create, you know, fabulous imagery or social media or stuff like that. I think you should be looking at the metrics, testing out, you know, being the ideas and the brains and the big thinking around it, because marketing is so tough when you have to be the person who not only has to do the big picture thinking, also the day-to-day typing and on like, or like Instagramming and stuff. It just takes away from the actual huge point of why you're doing marketing in the first place, which is to make sure that your business is viable, or to get brand awareness, or to make your investors happy, whatever it is. And you need to make sure that it's in line with like the bigger picture thinking, which is you are the head of your marketing department, even if you're a person on your own in your own company, and just outsource to Fiverr. Or I think canva.com is great for imagery. So like this background image for today, that's how I created it, completely free. So even if we have like big budgets here at React and Share, it's like, no, I will still use free software, damn it. Like, yeah.
Definitely. So we've had some really good takeaways here. Listen to your customers. Don't be afraid to be human. Be brave, be bold, be emotional. Build that trust, get that trust factor in there. You can build organically on LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. You can use analytics like Wistia. You've got Fiverr.com and Canva.com for building great content. Check that conversion rate always. It always harks back to the conversion. That's the full circle there. And see where your audience are coming from. So you want your customer acquisition costs to be low, and you want your lifetime costs to be high. Thank you very much to our speakers here, Paul, Mark and Hayat, and to Expert Webinar for having us here today. I'm now going to bring Paul back in just for a quick Q&A session. I think we've overrun slightly, but we've probably got some time for some questions.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, really enjoyed that. Loads of great takeaways there. There are some questions that have come in, and Mark, I know you've been stoking up some emotions in the chat box with your comments on cold calling.
I saw that. Yeah, I wasn't saying it was dead. I was merely saying that that content marketing is for me, it works side by side. You know, if you allow people to get to know you through producing content, and then you're about to pick up the phone and say, oh, hi, and oh my God, I saw your video last week. There we go. You've got a warm call. So I'm not for a second saying that cold calling is dead. And I don't think I said that at all. But if I did, then I apologize. But it works hand in hand.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, our last event was a B2B sales masterclass, and people were talking about cold calling, and the overall theme was you shouldn't have to necessarily cold call now. You've got LinkedIn, you've got social media, you've got so many touch points that you shouldn't really need to go in cold.
No. Well, if I can just jump in there. So we're a video and photography content creation company, but we do cold call. So we have all of this content behind us. We have all of these great clients that we work with behind us, but we still do cold calling in order that we can pick up more clients. Yeah. It wouldn't work, as Mark just said, if we didn't have all of the content behind us, because the first thing that our teams say to them when they pick up the phone is, can you just go onto the website and have a look at the stuff? We've obviously got social media that's out there targeting the same list that we're calling. So they'll have seen us on social, they'll have seen us on LinkedIn. We're connected to all of them on LinkedIn. They've hopefully seen the website already, but we still do the kind of the telephone prospecting for B2B. So we're hitting kind of everything in our marketing. And I think to have all of this content is really, really important. And it also comes back to who your target marketers as well. So 95% of companies, I think, would get away without necessarily needing to cold call. But we do have the odd client, and obviously they're a client of ours, so we do a lot of content creation for them. But some of their target market is kind of Jaguar Land Rover and companies like that who are going to spend a couple of £1 million with them. So just putting a LinkedIn post out, or just doing a little video, something like that, is not going to win them the job. The SEO is not good. Someone at Jaguar Land Rover is not going to just go onto Google and search someone who does what they do. Yeah. They have to make that connection with them first and then back it up with the content. So it does depend on the video, on the client. It does depend on their target market, and it does depend on what you do.
Yeah, and I would love to jump on Paul's point, because here at React and Share, we also have cold calling, and we see marketing as sales work collaboratively. We've never been competitive. And I think that's the myth that most businesses have, is like, oh, sales are sales guys and marketing is like blogging once in a while, when actually no, we can work like synonymously. So we have like weekly meetings that we speak about all kinds of stuff. And I think that, like Paul said, in some cases with some customers, actually they just want to talk to someone. And with our product and our service, it's actually quite difficult to explain in like an ad on a first go. It might have to take a lot of touch points, but also when I said like the lifetime value and the CAC being really low and the lifetime value being really high, that way you'd be able to see actually it might just be worth having someone call them. And like I was saying to one of our co-founders this morning, I was like, marketing in like football analogy, which is marketing could play either one of two roles. Either we could be the assists to the sales strikers, and we can assist them to score the goal, or we could just be the strikers. And I think testing out different ways that we could just get to the end goal, which is to score a goal or like to get a new customer, it works anonymously. So I'm still a big fan of cold calling. And I think even like methods of traditional marketing, which are like old, like fuddy-duddy or like out of their sort of places, I think that they work extremely well because everyone is just like digital. Why not just do stuff that we used to do in the good old days? Like, I think it still works.
Yeah, we did a campaign where we sent, we had kind of 3 target clients, just 3. So we did an ABM campaign where we sent, without any explanation, and I'll give you a little bit of an explanation. We were trying to pitch a script to some of the big TV and film companies, and Punch and Judy was a big part of the script. So without any explanation, without our name on it, without anything in the box other than a very, very creepy Punch doll, that's all we sent to the execs at the company. So it was just a box with a Punch doll in, knowing that 2 days later we were going in to pitch the script to them and that they'd seen the treatment. That was it. It freaked them the hell out. So for 2 days, one of the ladies didn't sleep. She phoned her boyfriend, she phoned her parents, she asked everybody at their company whether they'd sent it. And 2 days later, when we appeared in the lift at their company, first thing she said to me was, "Did you send me that creepy Punch doll?" And I said, "Well, what if we did?" And she said, "Well, first thing is we will be able to sleep. Or I'll be able to sleep. And secondly, it's the best sales pitch that we've ever had for a script. And at least I can tell everybody now." Yeah. So to be able to do something like that, it just sets you apart from everybody, doesn't it? Yeah. So I completely agree. It's important to be able, again, it stands you out, doesn't it? It separates you from everybody else. To be able to do something that's maybe not online sometimes. You couldn't do that to 100,000 people that you're trying to reach. We only had 3, thankfully. Otherwise, it'd have been very expensive. But yeah, to do something that's just really traditional or thinking a little bit differently.
Yeah, coming from a sales background myself, there has always been that sales and marketing disconnect, but there's an entire industry dedicated to it now, the sales enablement industry, which is connecting the two, which is the content for that is huge at the moment. We had a really good question coming quite early on from Warren, who says, how do you advertise as a brand new business, particularly on LinkedIn, with quite a niche product? So they sell custom spreadsheets for human resources. So not particularly sexy, not particularly interesting, new company. How would you go about standing out with that?
This is, oh my God, I could talk about this for half an hour. I'll try and break this down. Okay, there's 2 ways to do this. One, so using the search functionality on LinkedIn, go and filter and search for your perfect client, and then don't send them a connection request, because the first thing they'll think if you're sending them a connection request is that this person's trying to sell to me, and so they're likely to say no. So instead, follow them. Don't connect, hit the follow button. They don't have to accept you as a follower. You become a follower as soon as you hit that button. When they post on LinkedIn, and you may have to wait 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months sometimes until someone posts, but when they post, essentially what they're doing is standing in a networking event and going, "Oh my God, I think this." Get involved, have a conversation with them, put a comment in there. And so what you've got is human interaction on a digital channel. People are talking to each other. And so you've now started the conversation with this person who you already identified as being a potential client. Then send them a connection request. and they're much more likely to say yes. And do not fall into the trap that everyone then falls into, which is, oh, I'm now going to send them a sales email, because that's the surefire way to get blocked immediately. Rely on the fact that you are producing really good content, and now they're a connection and they're seeing your stuff, they're going to see your content. And when they need what you do, who is the first person they're going to think of, because you're consistently putting out content and top tips and you're giving away all of your expertise? Who do they think is the expert? You are. Who are they going to come to when they need what you do? You. That's how that whole thing works.
And I think in terms of, I completely agree. And I think if Warren then wanted to actually push or like get a customer now, because he's like, right, I need customers right now, I can't wait until they actually come to me. I would say what I really like is sometimes I'll send voice messages over LinkedIn inbox. And obviously, like, bear in mind, some people with like disabilities might not be able to hear it. So that's just one thing to bear in mind. But I love to just send a recording and be like, hi, this is Hayat, just like, I love what you're doing and stuff. Also, I think if you're doing spreadsheets for HR, which is like a really cool thing, which is different from like the very boring, sticky, you know, like Google spreadsheets or whatever, then you could just be like straight up and be like, do you hate boring spreadsheets? Well, ours isn't, you know, like just speak in the way that I would say HR people normally speak. And that, like, how people just speak in general. Like, we don't want to use spreadsheets for the sake of spreadsheets, but what is it that they actually want? Like, I love that analogy of like, we don't want to buy a hammer to get a hole in the wall. We want, like, you know, what it actually uses. So yeah, I would say just speak like a normal, regular person, like a friend, like you're speaking to a friend and you're not really desperate for their business, but also just say, yeah, they're really boring, those spreadsheets. What we're doing is really cool. Like, would you like to check it out or whatever?
Yeah, I think there's a really good point in there as well about LinkedIn, that some people see it as potentially an immediate sale. They have to be pushing for that sale straight away. So like Mark said, you'll get a connection request and it's, hi, I'm ABC, this is what I do, please book a Calendly link here. And it just does not work. You have to be patient, don't you, with this content?
You've got to be. And the thing is, I think at the moment, and I totally understand this, but desperation is kicking in. We're seeing that all the time because so many businesses are desperate. But I think you've really got to apply some caution to these desperate sales tactics. And I get it, because you'll have some director sitting there to the sales team saying, oh, make more money, you know, make blah, blah, blah. And so everyone just goes blah, blah, and starts sending out these sales messages. The problem is with those sales messages, no one wants to get them. They're horrible, they're nasty. And you know, this is all about human connection and about, you know, human beings talking to each other. That is where all relationships start. And so you've got to play the long game here. It is around a longer term strategy for me.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I think an easier way of remembering it is like, imagine if you're on a dating app and someone's like super desperate to go on a date with you. Like, they wouldn't ask you to marry them on the first time that you speak. Like, just calm down, love, like, you know, just speak
exactly.
So it's the same with marketing. Why are you asking someone to marry you on the first time that they've heard from you? Just speak to them normally and just like try and like remove the
exactly
pressure, you know, maybe even like lower your expenses just to make sure that you're not just cramming the market with crap. Because the worst thing you could do in this scenario, in a very desperate situation, which is like, we're in COVID, you know, we need to make money, we need to figure out a way to market to these people, is you don't want it to be a post-COVID world and they friggin' hate your company and they hate what you've done and you're super annoying to them. You want it to be like a really good, holistic, like everything was done right, even like in the moment of like absolute like terror. You were the one who kept going, you were the one who keep like sharing value, and you're the one who's just like the person to go to, like Mark said, when they need you.
Yeah, brilliant. Just calm down, love, I think is going to be the new tagline for LinkedIn. I think that's going to be brilliant.
Works well, that. I love that.
Yes. I'm conscious of time, and we do have a networking session that will be launching very shortly. So there's just one final question that was really interesting in here. Helen's talking about the Chanel Cottons videos that have gone viral on TikTok recently. There's nothing necessarily authentic about the content, but somehow they've got a huge audience and they've had a huge impact. Does anyone have any insight around that?
Not seen it, so I don't know.
Not seen
No.
it.
Not that viral then, apparently. Okay, wonderful. Well, that's 2 o'clock, so I'll say a massive, massive thank you to Aimee for moderating. You've done a wonderful job. I really appreciate that. And to Paul, Mark, and Hayat on the panel, thank you so much for joining us. Fantastic insight. I think that's going to be incredibly valuable to everyone.